Hello, everyone. Welcome out to the Cars, Bars, and Guitars podcast, episode number 29. I'm AJ.
I'm Steve.
Steve, who are we brought to you today by?
The check engine light.
In your car or just in general?
Well, at least in mine. For 40 miles yesterday, I drove without it on. I had my doubts that the car was even running.
Steve, we're going to get to our drink in a minute, but we have a special guest in studio today. It is Mr. Mark Kniesny.
Hello.
Yay.
Hey. Mark, how's it going?
It's all right. Mark Kniesny.
Kniesny.
For the record, but that's fine.
Somebody told me it was Kniesny.
Nobody ever gets it right, so I'm not really worried.
I got it less wrong. I didn't get it more right. I got it less wrong.
Less wrong than most, so you're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, Mark brought us some cool shit to drink today, so why don't we let Mark tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah,
All
what's
right.
up, Doc?
So if I can first just shout out to our good buddy Sean, who's now not on deployment overseas.
No, he's
in Florida now.
The undersea that he is the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. So, brought to you today, we're going to kick off with Doc Porter's. This is actually their vodka, but tiny little hole-in-the-wall distillery, actually, kind of sitting right in the middle of Charlotte's brewery district. Mm-hmm. So they kind of slightly, misbranded, I guess, there, but not, like I said, the big money version that is sitting right next to them. That's, kind of Great Gatsby-ish. Mm-hmm. But no, little hole in the wall spot. But honestly, it's really, really good work. And I'm not the person who normally drinks vodka neat. In college, vodka and I were like this. But
Fingers crossed for those not watching.
Right. We were really close, but a few bad incidences. You fall out sometimes with those really, really close college friends. And I found this and thought you guys might kind of enjoy.
It's been probably 10 years since I've had vodka straight.
I was going to say, yeah, I've never actively drank vodka neat, when it wasn't a shot.
Right.
But I'm not quite as young as I used to be, so shots are a little less frequent these days.
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, very, very rarely have I had a shot of anything on purpose. Okay, cool. We're gonna do the anti-clockwise thing, or
At the risk of being difficult,
I think that's digital clockwise is what we just did.
Digital clockwise. So this will be the first vodka we've had on here, because we had this, which we established from Bosnia, which we still don't know what it was. But
He didn't translate for you?
we did. Remember, we translated it and didn't still know what we were drinking. But
your coworker that's now back from said nation.
yes. All right. So cheers.
Cheers.
Vodka neat. That might be the best vodka I've ever had, actually.
I mean, depending on who you talk to, I'm definitely not an aficionado.
Yeah.
But, some people are saying, well, it should be completely flavorless if it's a great one. It all has to be Russian. I don't really know.
This one definitely has a flavor, and it's good.
A little, almost a little bit of maybe, really subtle vanilla.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
But damn, it's smooth.
That's fine.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Whatever they're doing over there, they need to keep the work up. That's pretty good.
So,
what else do they make?
they make gin. They make a pretty decent bourbon. I'm not going to say it's going to be life-changing, but, I mean, it's good. Mm-hmm. I was actually kind of surprised by their gin because I don't drink a lot of gin. It's not one of my go-tos. I wouldn't bring it to you guys like I did the vodka, but honestly, pretty good.
Okay. Because you're a gin and tonic fan, right?
Yes, that was...
You gotta go in.
Thanks to getting the hang of IPAs, I finally decided to give a G&T a shot and discovered I don't hate those now.
So I believe you actually can kind of find this around in some of the ABC stores. You don't have to go by, but I haven't seen it at the local one up near us.
So the ABC store right here in front of my house has... they have everything grouped together like all the other ones do, but they have a North Carolina section.
Nice.
Does that one near your house have that?
I'd have to go back and relook.
I got you.
I hit it up one time right in the middle of our moving in, and the whole process of buying our house was so crazy.
Understood.
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
And Steve's local ABC store happens to be
The same one as yours.
my local ABC
So
store. Walking distance.
Just up the hill from here.
Oh, it's so great. You can walk in one direction and go to a good wing and burger joint, a good Asian joint, a good Mexican joint, and an ABC store. I think we lucked out there pretty good.
I do kind of, when we lived in Davidson, we could walk around a bit, and I did enjoy that, and I kind of miss it.
Oh yeah, which Davidson's a cool town, man.
I can't afford it.
It's yeah,
yeah, I'd love to do it, but I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. So let's crack it open with some beer now that Steve and I've crushed the vodka. Do you have enough room with your? I can give you.
I think I'm good.
I was gonna say I'll give you. I'll give you a little more slack with that, but no more than that.
No, it's cozy over here.
Cool. Well, what's first on the beer? I'm not going to break up the sour yet. Let's.
No. And if nobody wants that, that's fine.
Let's do it because Steve and I shit on sours all the time.
24/7,
25/8
among some of the other things.
So we'll there's
it's 23/6. There was a key lime pie one I almost liked.
Okay.
Westbrook or because
was
Westbrook does too, and they're good.
It was one of the many in the midst of one of the Nantahala nights.
Okay.
One of like bring your own beer night. So
Yes.
we just tried everything. So somewhere in the middle of everything, it was that. I don't know where that notebook is, and if I could find it, I'm sure I would be able to read it. Because my hieroglyphics is quite lacking nowadays.
Gotcha.
Especially Drunken Hieroglyphics, which would be a great punk band name.
Go on.
We are the Drunken Hieroglyphics.
I mean, with the way everything's going in terms of emojis, I mean, is drunk texting not the drunken hieroglyphics of, like, say, 50 years from now? Less than that, 15.
Yeah, there won't be.
Gibberish is always in style.
On JRE, they were talking about that there should be just one universal language. Everybody speaks the same language.
Yeah. Esperanto.
And then it came up to Theo Von said it's probably going to be, it was probably pictorials. It'd be like hieroglyphics or emojis. And yeah, you're probably right.
I believe that's actually why the symbols in terms of radiation and danger and some of those are the way that they are, is so that they are completely understandable to. I want to say it actually was future people who no longer spoke, a language that we could predict.
Right, because doing something and then an X over it, it's very universal.
Well, in
that
bones with a skull.
So, yeah,
you get it all.
Either you're gonna die or you're gonna get a sweet metal band. I'm thirsty for some booze. So what's gonna be first out of that? I don't know. Mark your closest. Just grab a rando. We're not. We don't have to do this in any particular order. That's pretty ironic.
Since this is a few days after Stapat's Day, why not the Crafty Brewing Company Irish Red Ale?
All right,
cool deal. And we had a. Did we have the? We did not have the Irish. We had another crafty.
They had the black.
We had the black on the pod.
So you haven't had the red one yet. The red one's fantastic.
Once you go black, you go red. If you go hard enough, I guess.
I've seen that video.
I've seen ink fade.
I'm gonna
tear my finger up with this stupid bottle opener.
Yeah, that bottle opener is just
free and worth it.
Free and worth it.
Get my keys out.
It's marginally better than using like
teeth. Bullshit.
No, man, get your eye socket in there. Just like boss it.
I did see a chick from Gastonia open a beer bottle.
I feel like I've heard that story. Yeah.
You will continue to hear it because it was uncomfortable.
I mean, that's a life experience. There can be no doubt.
I don't think she could have done it with her teeth though, because I don't think she had very many of them.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you were going with there.
Yeah.
Keys are downstairs.
Let me give it a.
I'm going to throw this thing, by the way.
Well, as long as you throw this and not the beer, and then just throw this at the map of Africa, because everything else is fairly valuable.
I was going to say, if anybody smoked, then you have that lighter trick.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Now, Steve.
Yeah, I was like, well, in case this was a scar from a bad bottle opener 12 years ago.
Oh.
I don't wish to open that one back up.
Jesus. You got plenty of scars.
Yes.
Some that weren't your fault. I seem to remember an incident.
I think somebody did something once to Steve's, credit with fireworks.
Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about.
It was a good one.
Our brewmaster, to whom I own a PlayStation. Joke's on him; they don't work well. After 20 years, apparently, an old CD player is a finicky piece of junk.
Right,
but good luck, Gerald.
Yeah. So, have you guys ever regaled, I guess, that story in terms of, it was 4th of July.
It was the 4th
right?
of July of 13.
So we have a friend of ours, Gerald. He's probably been mentioned on here before, I guess. But it's fair to say that whiskey makes somebody who isn't terribly redneck very redneck.
You can take the man out of
Is that
Winston-Salem. You can
accurate?
take the Winston-Salem out of the man.
Right. And we were doing the not bottle rockets.
Mortars.
Yeah, mortars.
Yeah.
Thank you. And dropped a mortar into one of the tubes and decided that since the fuse had fallen off of a second mortar, what could it hurt to throw the second mortar on top of the first? And then when that went off, and I guess the whatever accelerant it has at the back of it shot it straight into your arm.
Yeah, while I was taking a video of him lighting fireworks.
Right,
So
right.
what you have is darkness, 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 sparks, explosion, and then you see the camera spiraling out of control as it catches some blur of the fireworks. Camera lands. There's a bunch of people, oh my God, are you okay? Yeah. Hold my beer.
Yeah, and you ended up with what, like a good 3rd-degree burn? That took a good 6 months to heal up.
Yeah, it
like
took,
even a little bit, probably.
Yeah, it healed up pretty well. So here's what it looks like from your angle. Not much.
Oh yeah, the scar's gone now. That's nice.
It looks very like a expired dog bite at this
What was
point.
that? 7 years ago now?
Coming up on 6.
We're getting old, dude.
Yeah, it was July 4th of 13.
Yeah.
Yes, I just got
Yeah.
Emily and I just got married. Ugh. That was a long
Yeah,
time ago.
that was an interesting summer, to put it kindly.
It's good times. Good times.
We are drinking Crafty Brewing Company Irish Red Ale, 4.1% by volume. We went way backwards. But from Crafty Brewing Company out of...
Your local Lidl.
Yes, Riverside Imports of Brooklyn, New York. So let's see how the Irish dance...
So 40% down to 4, you said?
That's a good sipper.
Yep.
I like that.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's
And it-
lower than I'm used to.
And at $2 a bottle, I think I'm going to need to buy them out next time.
$2?
Yeah, I think it's
Dude,
$2 or
that's a
$2.50. Yeah.
deal for $2.
Is there a Lidl in Denver?
No.
'Cause I'm afraid like
there's-
your next nearest one might be the one at Concord Mills.
Yeah,
which
Denver's
is-
way out in the country. We have a lot of a very wooded lot. That's nice, but we're way out there. So
Is that Denver flat too?
Denver flat too.
Versus Colorado. I'm surprised how flat that city is.
No,
being,
there's a
right
little
before the
bit of
Rockies hit.
topo out there, but no, there's no mountains. So if we're going climbing for the weekend, we still have to head out to Crowders or I actually usually head out to West Virginia for that. But
I'll tell you the views from Sparta, the road going into Sparta from Elkin near Stone Mountain. Very, very pretty drive. I did that Friday.
You've got a connector for the Blue Ridge Parkway through there too, don't you?
They do, and I didn't want to take it carrying all that equipment in the Jeep.
Fair enough.
well, I mean, most of the Blue Ridge Parkway, or at least because if there's some road humps and it's a little bit slower, so it's not as bad.
Well,
yeah, it's
Jeep
all
will
35, 45.
Well, yeah, and I mean the most of the curve radii are pretty big on that road as opposed to some of the others where it's like really tight.
Or like just north of Asheville. It got a bit treacherous there around Mount Mitchell.
Probably.
Like
Oh, so
and
fun
like
up there.
coming back from the mountains a year and a half ago, hit some really bad fog,
Oh,
and I've got an altimeter app on my phone, so as we're like seeing like, all right, 4,000, 4,200, 4,400, like it finally crested about 5,600 feet,
Yep.
and it is wide out while dark. It's like it was terrifying. I've still got the claw marks in the tail and
the
steering wheel.
Fog lights didn't clear that all up.
No, the Honda doesn't have that many magic powers.
It's been my
Come on,
experience.
2016 CRV.
It's been my experience that fog lights are purely aesthetic every time I've used them.
No, fog lights are handy when both your headlight bulbs burn out, like mine did.
Fair
about
enough.
a year
Okay,
ago.
well, in that
Love my car, but
situation,
it's got its issues.
in that situation, I would agree with you. But no, the Jeep actually is fairly composed at those kind of curves. But like when I have that much equipment in there, it's just sloshing around. Doesn't inspire a fun trip.
Yeah.
So Mark, we did this last time, so we're going to do this with you. So we're going to go through your car history.
All right.
So, Steve and I did that on episode 1. This is your first guest star appearance, so we're going to go through your car history. So, why don't you tell everybody?
So, I started off really high. Had a 1997 Saturn SC2.
Meow.
Did that still have the flip-up headlights?
No, this was just after it went. I think the flip-up headlights were through 95, maybe 96. Don't quote me on that. But no, mine was the solid headlights. I think it had a blazing. When it left the factory, it would have had, I think, 118 horsepower through a completely open diff right to those front wheels. No, but it was light. I mean, no power, but it was at least kind of light.
Light power plus open diff on a rainy day is still quite entertaining.
I'd light them up all the time.
I do that a lot in my car now.
17-year-old me? Yeah.
37-year-old me? Yeah.
I think it was after I replaced the tires for the first time, that definitely cut that down a little bit. Because I remember prior to getting that, I told my mom that I wanted a 3000 GT Mitsubishi. And I was like, yeah, Mom, I want this car. It'd be great. And she's like, well, son, sounds to me like what you want's a job. So, yeah, got a job. Turns out cars, cost a lot of hours at Target. Mm-hmm. So, no, there was no 3000 GT.
You could have got an SL. Could have got that. I know you didn't want that, though.
No, I mean, I think when
I
got that,
I want that SW2.
I think that Saturn had, 80-something thousand miles when I got it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was, I don't think it was more than $4,000. It was, I know I didn't have that sort of cash then. So, had that through a lot of college. And then that unfortunately got totaled. Not when I put it into a ditch. It was fine after that. But then, no, somebody hit me at an intersection. That got totaled.
Was it a Volvo?
No, actually, it was a guy, I think in a Ranger. If I remember rightly, but I don't remember that all that well. And then,
but it's funny if it was a Mercury hitting a Saturn.
Did Mercury make a version of the Ranger?
Don't know.
I'm unaware that there was the Mazda Ranger, which I had as
I never
lately.
Yeah, they had the same thing, and an early version of that had the rotary in it.
While listening to Mars Volta,
that was like
do all the play.
It's like a Ford Courier.
So, following that, as only a college student could, I went from a 97 Saturn to a 1986 Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra.
Sweet.
In burgundy with matching burgundy interior.
In velour?
Oh, man, it was great. Yeah, it brought everything to the yard. Ran that until I could never get the brakes fixed properly, and I tried. So at one point, especially if it was raining, the passenger front would brake really hard, and so the car would kind of want to spear off in that direction. And at the point where you couldn't really compensate for it anymore, I sort of got it in my head that even with that sort of all no care, throw it all to the wind attitude that you generally have towards the end of college, that wasn't going to work anymore. So ended up with a 2007 Civic EX. I paid that off after a couple of years, paid that off on a Wednesday, and then a lovely lady decided to total it for me by taking a left through an intersection because she didn't care what the light said. Red, don't care. So totaled that, and then was shopping for the Beamer. Mm-hmm. So I was going for I think it's E86. I think is the hardtop version.
Don't look
of it.
This way,
right? I don't know that chassis code, but but the Z4.
I'm okay on the E codes. You kind of lose me at like F and G.
Yeah, the Fs and Gs. Like
but,
what could this do? E100. Oh wait, then it starts sounding like Mercedes codes.
I wonder if that's why they did that. I don't know enough about
just
the
had that random
Das
thought,
Germans.
but
that's a good one.
You cracked the code, man.
If you did,
Your
Now they're
German's
gonna
it's
come.
been 20 years since I took German class, but now I finally figure out.
It could have been 40. Your German is better than mine and Mark's German.
that's right. Yeah, you do speak a bit
Alles
German.
ist Quatsch.
So no, was going for this gorgeous blue Z4M hardtop. I still to this day miss that car, but the dealer was, and I say this in air quotes, taking a long time to get the title in from the bank, which should normally take, maybe 5 or 6 business days. Kind of, really 2, but you can understand a full
Was
week.
it the shady Florida import?
No, this one was from, it was just north of DC, but it just started kind of seeming really sketchy. It took them over 2 months to quote unquote get this title in.
Sometimes that land isn't so merry.
Yeah, and I don't know what they were trying to scrub off the title, or if they were trying anything fishy at all. But the last thing I need is a sketchy Beamer. Mm-hmm. So oddly enough, ended up in a 13 Mustang GT, and still have that one. And then now I have my 04 Civic Si as a daily because I'm increasingly walking the Mustang into a more ridiculous track build.
So why not get a daily driver that you can do the same thing to?
You have to. There's especially on the Mustang, once you start replacing some of the suspension with harder stuff because you wear out all the factory stuff at the track.
You don't need kidneys.
It gets loud. They're not quiet cars once you start messing with it. So had to quiet that down.
It is remarkable that I bet you if you got a car that was I bet you if you got in my S2K you could run really good times just because the Mustang will make you a better driver at a track because that's not really what the 13 GTs were set up for.
Well, the 13's much more so than anything
earlier,
before.
Anything like with a Fox chassis.
Because that's really when you kind of had. It was mostly a cosmetic refresh, but you did have the Boss coming out right there next to it, right. And at this point, mine is almost a Boss. I have most of the suspension bits that were different, most of the cooling bits that were different, and I have the same red line that a Boss would.
Okay,
the Boss has different
your car
heads,
is like a Boss.
It is like a Boss, yeah, yeah, and it directs workflow. So,
cause I'm trying to think, because the new Mustangs have the independent rear.
Correct.
The Terminator Cobra had an independent rear.
That's also correct.
And some of the Roush ones, even the earlier ones, some of them, but you had to get the higher dollar one, I think.
Might have.
Other than that, I think they were all live axle in the back, I think.
At least in terms of the track, for sure at my level. I'm a decent driver, but when you're actually talking to people who know what they're doing, I'm not that good. But at my level, they're at the track at least not a whole lot of difference between that solid and the independent. You'll notice it if it's a particularly bumpy road. You'll get a lot more out of that independent rear.
Well, I was thinking that driving a live axle, something because they didn't design the GT Mustangs specifically for autocross. It wasn't made.
No,
it was made to be a good
handling.
a good handling car. Because it's not like you get in it and it's like getting in a 95 Mustang GT, which is hilariously
they're all
horrible
in
the corners.
terrible.
I think Colin still isn't running.
It's surprised.
the 500,000-mile convertible.
Yeah, that's 7 different colors of red. Yeah, but I feel like if you can hone autocross skills in that, then you're making yourself a better driver.
And I did autocross in it for a couple of years. And it was pretty good at that. And that was kind of where I started. Yeah, I was always interested in driving as a kid, but I had shit cars. So as soon as I found a little bit of power, I was like, I need to start with something reasonably safe. I still had a pretty good loan out on it. So something local, something safe, something cheap.
Yeah.
Started there, and then just kind of snowballed into the track days, which the car's been down. Or it hasn't been in track shape for about a year now, but it will be back soon.
So which does it have more, cylinders or airbags?
It does have more cylinders than airbags,
cool.
But it's close.
Here's a fun game. How many vehicles have we owned that did not have airbags at all?
Just the one for me, the 88 Cutlass.
Mine was 3.
At 3 as well.
All right, we tied in number of cars we've owned also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's broken our
Well,
record
I guess
yet.
I guess technically 2.5 since the 87. I'm like that's kind of like that was family vehicle.
Yeah.
But the 87 pickup, the 84 Blazer, and the 89 GTI.
All right, the Dodge truck did not, obviously. And
What's an airbag?
The 2 Starions did not either. No
Yeah,
airbags.
I actually saw one of those at Cars and Coffee this last weekend.
Was it in good shape or shit shape?
It was in amazing shape.
Really?
I
What color
I
was
haven't
it?
been to a Cars and Coffee in forever.
I
and,
haven't been to one in a year, but I just discovered there's one at Concord Mill at
Yep.
Speedway. So apparently next
Yeah,
week,
that's the
20th
one
of
I went
April.
to.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about that before you got here.
I don't remember what color it was. I remember that especially the leather interior looked original and was in amazing shape. Because I mean, what would that have been? An 88?
Give or take.
I mean,
Yeah, was it a wide body? One that I had.
it looked. I mean, to my eye, similar to the one that you had.
So it was anywhere from 86 to 89.
But it was also a 2JZ swap,
Ooh.
I think I know that guy.
and I mean, the interior was immaculate. Yeah,
Do you know who made the seats in the Starions in 88 and 89?
I'm guessing not Recaro, or was Recaro?
Recaro. Yep.
That would have been really early when Recaro was getting popular.
It was, and my 88 had them, but the seats were in garbage-ass shape because that's what happens when you give it to an 18-year-old girl to drive, my sister.
I mean, an 18-year-old in general.
My
Treats
87...
cars like shit.
True.
Yeah.
Especially there. But my 87 had super nice seats even when I got rid of it. But it had... it even had the bolt like adjustments for quad like underneath. You could
Oh, really?
it was
Nice.
all manual, but it was so you could adjust the you could adjust. It was 7-way adjustable seats.
Have you ever sat in like an OMP racing seat? Oh man. Oh, I can't wait.
Just give you like half stack.
It's so good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The only problem is, so I'd set in them independent, like in a showroom, so independent of the vehicle.
Gotta get that size up fire suit for that
And
excitement.
really picked out what felt just amazing. It's like, this is so comfortable. This fits like a glove. Like I'm not going anywhere because in the factory, because I have the base model Mustang just with the upgraded brakes, and the seats in that are shit. I mean, they're reasonably comfortable on long drives, so that's nice. But I mean, when you're going around a track, they're awful. And I have to upgrade the seats at some point. So yeah, was looking at the seat, set in somebody who did have exactly the setup I wanted, and it's impossible to climb in and out of that car. Like you cannot do that and even think about taking it to work the next day.
Will the S2K seats bolt in? Because they will. I think didn't Gerald get a set of S2K seats?
He did for his 3000 GT.
God, that's got to look funny though in there.
When he gets them in, it'll probably look great.
See, I think the lines though, but we know what seats it came out of, so maybe that's why I'm going to think it looks weird.
I bet it'll look great.
Is it like mine that have the hole in it, or is it the solid? Because the solid
I'm
ones,
pretty sure he's have the holes in it.
yeah, because they hold the helmet better though,
Right.
But he's taller than I am too.
Well,
so.
and which is why he has to have better seats. Because I mean, he's almost having to like crick his neck to ride when he's at the track, and it just does not work after the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, imagine driving at 45-degree angle. Like,
Yeah, when you're because I think he's only a little bit behind me, and I'm almost topping out at 150 on the back straight.
yeah,
Yeah, that's not best.
we need another refill, guys.
By all means.
What are we going to have next? Oh no, there's so much to choose from. Ooh, yes.
So,
please.
in keeping with, because I know you guys have had several other variants of this on the show before, the High Wire Brewing's 10W40.
Yes.
This is the salted maple version of the 10W40.
All aboard the pancake
I
beer.
don't think that's how you can make a tree grow.
No, I think doesn't salt water kill trees?
Probably.
Maybe
Maybe not palm trees.
Salting the earth.
That's actually true.
But anything else other than that,
I'm not a botanist. I don't really know a lot about it.
I'm not
So,
either.
how'd you get kicked out of Canada?
Those are cool mount me hats. Mount me? Maybe after a few drinks. It's dark as the sense of humor on the show. Imperial stout brewed with maple syrup, chocolate, vanilla, pink Himalayan salt, and lactose.
The pink salt's key.
I love Voodoo Donuts' slogan. Steve, do you remember what it is?
Negative.
Good things come in pink boxes.
Heyo.
They do.
So I have not had anything bad from Highwire, and I've also not had anything bad from their 10W series. So I got to think their 10W30 is probably easier to get. And
Well, it's easier to go down.
true. Yes. Oh boy, that's good.
Yep.
So Doug DeMuro's car today, what he reviewed, McLaren F1
With Jay Leno.
Jay Leno. So I didn't know it took 10W60, but
Pardon?
yeah.
Most of the Beamers do.
Yep, because of the BMW engine. And it is still, and I did not know this, it is still the fastest production road car with a naturally aspirated engine.
I believe that's correct.
Yep. So no turbos, no super, it was just the V12 from the Beamer. And I also didn't know.
V10.
12.
Is it 12?
12.
12.
Pretty sure
The
it's 10.
I thought the 10 came later.
They said 10, they said 12 on the video. And he
I think that was effectively a 850 CSI engine.
Yeah, I'll tablet it.
Definitely. I mean, for sure, check me on that. But I thought it was a 10.
He said 12. I'm happy to have not been paying attention. But I also didn't know this either. So McLaren, in making the car before they had even announced it, were the makers drove an NSX and loved it so much they asked Honda to make the engine. And Honda said no.
Wow.
Honda said they didn't want to do it.
Honda also didn't want to make anything bigger than a V6.
At the true, but they
I've said for a while they should have made a big old V8 because it would be amazing.
it would be a great engine. Honda, when Honda tries,
Yeah.
they do really good jobs. Now, I understand the Honda hate from when we were kids because people would throw a muffler on there and then people go around town just raising hell and being loud and obnoxious and bragging that their Honda's fast when it's not. But they're fun. They're super reliable. They get great miles per gallon. Parts are very cheap. Even for the S2K, the parts are fairly cheap. Because at the end of the day, it's a Honda. So but no, it was weird that Honda didn't want to make the engine. I can only imagine Honda did not want to make the engine because I can't think of anything Honda makes the engine for that another car company uses at all. They don't share engines at all.
Saturn Vue Redline
Really?
had a 3.5 V6 in that.
It was the Honda V6?
Probably from the
No,
Acura.
the V6
Wait,
and a
which
Saturn
Redline?
Sport Utility.
The View?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
the first gen Vue, had the Redline model.
Interesting.
Because that's what I was badgering Will about when he said he had a Saturn Vue. It's like, they have a Redline? Like, no, I don't have the Honda engine in it. So what we have here is the S70/2 engine from 12-cylinder layout of the BMW 850, but 4-valve cylinder, and it was proprietary to the car, but similar to the 850 CSI, and then the next iteration was in their Le Mans racing car.
Yeah, it was a detuned version of the homologated engine that they ended up, I think, abandoning for it wasn't Group B because that was Rally.
Yeah, that expired in '86 because it got too dangerous.
That's a shame.
Could you imagine what a Honda V10 would sound like at Redline? It
be
would
amazing,
It
yeah.
would be great. Have you heard the videos?
So what I got to do is get two Acura Vigor engines and mate them together and see what happens.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
Do it.
Find me 2 Acura Vigors in good running shape, though.
get back down that.
All right. I love the transversely, or I love the longitudinally mounted engines in those when they're front wheel drive. I always thought it was cool as hell. I don't know why they did. I think they did it just because. That's what I miss about the 90s too, though, because they did things that were cool and not necessarily like made any sense. But I kind of miss the insanity of it. Now we're having insanity powers, and I forgot who I was talking about it with. I think it was
How stressed do you want your 4-cylinder today?
I think it was Preston, but I was like, cars are getting no, it wasn't Preston. It was well, fuck, I don't remember. Anyway, I digress. But both of you guys will appreciate this because you and I have talked about it before. But it's getting a little bit stupid, like the horsepower wars. Where our buddy Brian Layton from Poor, he had an LCF, the Lexus coupe with, and he said it was fun, but I'm
LCF or RCF?
RC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like the
I don't know
whatever the hell the.
I don't know
expensive-
alphanumeric
Yeah,
shit
the
anymore, man.
the V10 one is unobtainium.
Right.
But the RCF
but
is
that's a
more
good
believable.
car.
Yeah. The LFA was the one you were.
That's it.
Yeah. But he's like, at the top of second gear, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
I'm driving it to and from work in traffic. I can't enjoy this car anymore.
That is the one thing that I was really shocked about when I started using the Mustang daily. Because it's pretty good around the track going fast, but yeah, when you use it daily, especially when you know how good it is at 95, and you don't really have the room to get over 45, it's kind of a downer. And then you end up getting a Civic,
Which is, but is the shifter in the Honda better, even though it's 10 years older?
not even close. But that's because I've upgraded the shifter
stock
in
for stock, though.
Mustang. I've never driven a brand new off the line.
Fair enough.
So I mean, there's kind of a lot of slop actually in the Civic. I mean, it's still decent, but
Right.
the Mustang's really crisp now. So
if you upgraded it too.
Yeah.
But I know Honda usually is not. I've never driven an SI of that vintage, but every Honda shifter I've ever driven was super duper, just a great setup, especially S2Ks. But
Right.
they really tried with that one. But even a later like 09 SI, 08 something SI, I drove a buddy of mine's. It was super snickety. My TSX was the same way. It was super tight too. They do really good engine. That would have been cool to see what engine they would have put in the McLaren, because I don't think it would have been turbocharged.
no.
I don't think it would have been a V6 either.
Well,
I
and
think
the problem was, I mean, in terms of turbocharging, like, it only really started working that well in the early 90s. Because I mean, even some of the really late 80s stuff, the only reason that worked was because the engines were so overbuilt that, you know, you brought your tolerances down to a square mile.
Well, my
And
Starion.
then, you know, you could put a bunch of power into it, so it was fine. But I mean,
At the early Porsche 930s turbo lag. Like, turbo's on. Okay, well, now your ass is facing forwards.
yeah,
The Starion
The
was actually a
Waymaker
little more
cars.
linear, but the red line on Starion was at 5,900. But because it
that's
was
really low.
a 2.6 inline
Still.
4
Yeah,
with
Yeah,
7
I mean,
to 1
it's like a truck motor at that
with
point.
7 to 1
Right.
compression.
Yeah,
Wasn't natural
Super
actuator one a truck motor or forklift motor?
Forklift. It was out of a forklift. But I ran hilarious amount of boost at that thing, and it never complained because it's such low compression. Like, I ran 21 pounds of boost.
that's a lot. Yeah.
Oh, it was so loud. Oh my! Because I had a straight through exhaust, no muffler, no cat, and even then, all you could hear at Redline was.
I know that some of the Subaru guys will run upwards of 20, like into even the high 20s. I know some of the rotary guys will run upwards of 20s. Like, I want to say I've even seen some people saying they were in the low 30s.
It wasn't surprised. Well, the
That's a lot,
rotaries can take the boost like that too. So
They kind of can,
I think the Subarus too. I think they have low compression motors also.
probably.
I think just because the geometry of the motor. Happy to be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Just low compression head gaskets.
Yeah, I was going to say they eat head gaskets like the rotaries.
Oh, hello, horse. Nice to beat you again.
That would be the only thing that would keep me from getting the Forester XT or an Outback XT, which I'm still kind of in like with over
great
the Jeep.
cars.
I know, but the parts are going to like for what I have now. Like, the Subaru will be faster.
Sure.
Other than that, I don't know if there's another pro of having it over the Jeep.
Yeah, if you were suddenly in a need to replace both your cars with one thing, that'd be perfect.
Right.
Actually, if I
And
had to
you're not.
replace, if I had to get rid of both of mine and get one car, I would get a Cayenne with a manual transmission. When I could still get it.
I was going to say if you could find one.
Yeah,
because I mean, I
that's
know
an
that
early
they made
model.
it, but I mean,
Yeah, in a perfect
just
world.
because they
that's-
made it, what 4 people
the
ordered
V8.
one?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's what I'd get if I had to like. But in
And
that
as a first gen
unlikely,
one, which makes me envy the blind.
True.
They got better with the newer ones. but
Yeah.
you go for
those,
that
those
McCann.
first ones are ugly.
I hate that I like the McCann so much.
Dude,
but-
I find that to be a really attractive sport ute.
It's such a good looking car, and I hate myself so much for liking it.
so we did guilty pleasure bands before. So have we done guilty pleasure cars on this? I don't think we've done that on this
I
podcast.
don't think so.
Mark, and here's we've shouted out to Mark a lot on this podcast, and we've talked about him a lot. So I'm glad he's here with us
Yeah,
about
it's
this.
nice to be
Even
here.
though I got his fucking name wrong at first, and I really feel like a piece of shit for that. But
Nobody gets it right.
I like getting things right though, and I got 80% of it correct.
Yeah, no, it's close enough.
But Mark's listened to basically every episode.
Nez Not Knees or Knees Not Nez?
I think I might have listened to every episode.
I think
My condolences.
all of our friends have listened to an episode, but Mark's listened to all of them. I don't think we've done guilty pleasure cars. We've done guilty pleasure music, but I don't think we've done guilty pleasure cars. And this will be very fun to do because Steve and I share a lot of the same musical taste, but like he is a Mike Patton fan, and I'm just not. And do I like something musically that you don't?
Korn.
Yeah, I do like Korn.
Slipknot.
I like Slipknot too.
Korn's early stuff it really harnesses that like late 90s teenage angst so damn well. And yeah, that's laughable, but it's good.
When you know that Jonathan Taylor had a horrible like childhood, that because there's the song "Daddy" on
Jonathan Davis.
Yeah,
the Korn singer.
Yeah, what'd I say?
Taylor.
Oh, whatever. Sorry,
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Jonathan Davis. Sorry,
that's such a rough
Take
time
two.
on Tool Time.
Take two. There's a song called "Daddy" on their self-titled album, where it's about him being sexually molested by his uncle and him telling his parents, and his parents saying, "You're lying. You know, don't ever say this again. You're not going to drag like." And it's like he had a really, really, really rough childhood. The fact that he actually came out on the other side of that in good shape, like,
yeah. I mean, you got to find your kind of outlet.
Yeah, you do. I mean, like so many. You've seen a lot of musicians and actors lately. You know, depression is real, and you think money is going to solve all this and fame, and it really doesn't. I mean, money makes things easier. It doesn't make them better. I mean,
yeah.
So money makes
a lot of stuff easier.
It makes it a lot easier.
Heal any problem that you have inside.
Not at all. I mean, I've made more. I've had been at my happiest when I was broke as fuck. When I just met Emily, and I didn't have much, and she didn't have that much either. But it's funny how you grow the perspective when you get older too. Like, I mean, it's. I love you, Steve.
You too, AJ.
All right,
we love you too, Marcus.
I don't want to cry, man. I don't want to cry on a podcast. Guilty pleasure cars.
You want to hug it out?
We can do that off mic. All right, so let's see. Guilty pleasure cars, and I'm trying to think of stuff that I like and you don't, or we've talked about before. I like the Beretta.
That little growly noise it makes. Oh yeah.
3.1 liter V6. What a weird. I don't trust any engine with a 0.1 at the end of it. But I don't know if that could be a guilty pleasure because it's actually an attractive looking car. It's not an ugly car. Like a Multipla. Like if Mark said, I love Fiat Multiplas, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Like, nobody does that.
I think for me, that's going to either have to be the aforementioned Macan, because I really hate most of the SUVs and especially the crossovers, especially. But I do love that Macan, and all the reviews just say it's amazing. Or the Chrysler Crossfire, I think might be my.
Are you saying you got caught in the crossfire?
I might have, yeah.
My neighbor, I guess he moved. My neighbor, she moved her boyfriend in. He has a Crossfire. It's not an SRT. It's just a regular.
I should say I would never have one.
Of course not.
I would never pay for one.
Hey, man, nice Mercedes.
But I really do actually I personally like the way that they look. I love seeing them on the road.
But you like that shape, though. Because the Z4, while not the same, does have similar characteristics.
Mostly across the board, I like a really phallic car. And you read into that everything you need to. But I like almost all of them. I mean, you go back to the old like XK 120s, straight through the hardtop, E-type Jags. Mm-hmm. Pretty much every Beamer that's looked like a dick, I love it. Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you look like a dick when you're driving it.
You do, yeah. It's what's the difference between a porcupine and a BMW?
Porcupine that pricks around the outside.
Got it.
All right, so while we're doing, Mark, grab us another one. You're at the ice station. I don't think a Macan is necessary. Well, it could be your guilty pleasure, but I I see why people like them.
Yeah. It's hard to see why somebody likes the Crossfire objectively.
Well, I mean,
Even
it
if
is.
you like the looks.
The SRT6 would be neat to have.
You're still going to have most of the same problems that the crappy one had, just a little bit less in the engine.
That's true, because it's still all Mercedes like stuff. So.
Well, I mean, reheated leftovers. Like, it's not just their stuff.
Right. I would still love to have an SRT Jeep Cherokee, but I don't think that would be a guilty. I don't think people wouldn't judge you for it.
Just stay away from the Prius drivers.
They're using up all the
gas I'm not
You like the Camino?
They're I forget what year
The
this
earlier
is.
the
I wanna
better.
s- I
So that's
wanna
why I like the
say,
Ranchero.
Like there was one year where it looked really, really, really close to the Chevelle. And
About a 70?
from the like right at a 70. It's almost impossible from the front to tell, unless you're really big into the muzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And I can kind of get it. And if you did it up sort of Thomas Crown affair, where it was maybe even a little bit lifted, had that kind of light bar going on it, sort of Back to the Future-esque, just kind of made like a homologation of it, of just all of that sort of early 90s childhood into one car. I can kind of get it. Yeah.
I like hearses.
Really? Okay.
I like Subaru Brats. So the El Camino is not far off that.
That's a good
But
one.
car
I don't
trucks,
like the
yeah.
Brat. I don't like the Brat. That
I don't
might
really
be-
like the Brat either.
That's
but
good.
I get it.
I'm not a fan of Baja, but I always adored the Brat.
See, I actually do kind of like the Baja.
Okay, that is also-
I would never have one, but
There's one of
I
the
like
regulars at
seeing
Saucer
it.
has one with the camper shell on it. Like the camper shell looks
I've
real
never
strange
seen
on
one
those.
with the camper shell.
So it's just like
that's new.
the back cover, but
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
higher than the roof of it, so it looks
Really?
really
That's
bizarre.
horrible.
Yeah. Why didn't you just buy an Outback?
Somebody leaves every morning and gets into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the camper's so small. It looks like if Shaq were to put on like a My Buddy hat,
Right.
Like the
Yes.
little hat. So
My
that's two.
Bratty,
That's two.
my Baja.
That's two guilty Subaru pleasures right there. I would say SVX, but I know both of y'all
Yeah,
probably like
that's
those.
no guilt in that game.
Even they're autos, but
Well,
you know,
no, but the
they-
thing is, you can find the manual conversions
they
so
were
readily
sold
on the
overseas
internet.
with sticks, so it's not.
I know. But how much money do you want to spend on your SVX?
They're for sale all day under 10 grand. All day.
In what shape?
I've seen. I mean, of course, that's a great question. But
Yeah.
I've seen several where, at least from the pictures, and I mean, sure, you can always take great pictures, but the pictures look clean. They look really clean, and I mean, if it was really a piece, how clean can you really make those photos?
True. What you got, Steve?
I've been handed a Charlotte Brewed Raspberry Milkshake, courtesy of the Southern Tier Victory Brouhaha. The brewers at 4001 Yancey created CLT brewed beers as small batch innovations inspired by a brewing history of Southern Tier's famous beer, but with taste of the Queen City craft lovers in mind.
Cool. Crack that bad boy open while we think of more. I say so. Mark and I don't like the Brat. That's what we should do. We should each pick a car we like. The other two don't. That would be even harder to do. But that's still a guilty pleasure thing.
I think I nailed one of them.
I mean, I think I've got mine right off the bat.
What?
It's got to be my RX-7 with the original engine. Well, actually,
No,
not the original engine, but with a rotary engine.
Well, no, that's not because I love the car and I would put up with the engine. But if
Would you put up with the engine?
if I didn't have the money to do the swap, yes.
I think if you want a Corvette, get a Corvette, man.
I like the looks of the RX-7 better.
It's a beautiful car.
It's timeless. If
The
you told a
F-Series
non-car person, here's the new Mazda sports car that came out this year, they would go, "Oh, that's nice." It's a timeless design, but I don't think I think I kind of think the Supra is too from the outside. If we're just sticking with outside, the 3000 GT is 94 on. The pop-ups date it.
Yeah, pretty badly.
Yeah, I still love it.
It's
But if you were modernization, so if you told somebody that car came out, the 95 3000 GT, they'd believe you. 94, they wouldn't.
well, if you did and I think it was only available for 1 year here, but if you actually took the 99 version of that, you could totally pass it off.
Yeah.
That 99 facelift makes a world of difference.
But do you like the wing that doesn't go with the flow?
Honestly,
of the car?
kind of love it. Yeah.
Really?
Go,
I
throw
don't.
it in
I'm
there.
indifferent. I like both of the wings. Steve,
Nah,
don't care.
no.
I think I really, especially, the VR4 version of that, I think, is a really
Nobody's buying this car for its rear visibility anyway.
underrated car.
All right, well, here's an unpopular opinion. I thought the Stealth always looked better.
Nah.
More for you.
So there's mine.
That was the one time where I preferred the non-pop-up headlight model to the pop-up headlight model.
I always thought the Stealth looked better.
I remember the Stealth most from, and it was a really short-lived TV show called Viper.
Yep.
That actually featured, as you might guess, and it was essentially a marketing stunt for the release of the Dodge Viper. I think that might be
It was Knight Rider by a different name.
It really was, yeah. But in the opening 2-hour debut series thing, it was the hero car against a trifecta of blacked out Dodge Stealths. In a battle royale. Loved it.
It's a better name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Here's a fun story. So my dad is an ex-biker, and he had the Starion that got handed down to my sister, which got handed down to me.
Did the blood work kick him out?
Kind of.
Okay.
So he had the Starion, and he was out on his Easy Rider special bike that was long front with the handlebars, the big sissy bar on the back, big rear tire. So he goes by the Dodge dealership in 91. Stealth RT twin turbo just came out, and he's like, I'd like to take that for a test drive. And they were like, no. He's like, what? He said, no. They said no. He said, okay. He went home and got on his nice outfit, took his Starion up there, got out of his Starion. Same salesman rolls up, and he goes, I'd like to take that Stealth for a test drive. He goes, right this way.
Especially if you're in your 20s, the difference between jeans and a suit in terms of what you can walk up and get great customer service on is phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the thing, too, is this was in 91, so that would have made my dad 45 years old.
Oh, okay. Well, that breaks my experience.
My dad's old as shit. My dad's 72, so... But that's how I always thought that was funny. He's like, I mean, it wouldn't let me drive it. It wouldn't even let me get near it until he went home and got his nice car and his nice clothes. I was like,
that's kind of crazy. Yeah.
Okay, well,
not a great dealership, I'm guessing.
No, and he ended up not buying it anyway. Right. So, because I think that at the time, I think you could only get it in stick, the twin turbo.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You
wouldn't have. In an early '90s auto, you wouldn't have wanted it.
Yeah, because the Starion was his was an automatic. But the first one he had, the Technica, was it would talk to you. Everything was digital, and it would talk to you. Please fasten your seatbelt. Door ajar. Trunk ajar.
Have you seen
gas door open?
Have you seen how they did that with the talking cars in the 80s?
I have not.
A tiny record player. It is a tiny phonograph that would, pick it, whatever track it needed to play. It would, but that's at least how a Nissan Maxima, that vintage, would do it.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was a tiny record.
That's so cool.
I do love sort of that. Some of the sort of make do technology fixes that you had in that. The future is now 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Buick Reatta with touchscreen. Well, ostensibly it's a thing.
Yep. I wonder
and
how
if that tube goes out. Good luck with your HVAC system.
Yeah. Or let's have all your CD changers in the trunk. Hope you like those 3 CDs. And then later 6.
Never understood that. Even as a kid.
No.
Probably just so it's taking up no space in the cabin.
But can't you just put it under the seat? They had
oddly enough, my car had one in it. It wasn't connected to anything, but there was a 6-disc changer in it. It's like, well, I'm not using this because I've got an MP3 stick.
The TSX had it in dash. It was 6-disc. 6
compact discs.
And I still listen to CDs because I'm old as fuck, but neither of my cars have aux.
You and Adam have first crack at my CD collection once I finally get them matched back up. Or in any cases, no, even better.
Nope, I still rocking that and the tape deck. Luckily, the S2000 does not have a tape deck. I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
The tape deck makes it. It doesn't.
Yeah, neither of my cars have a tape deck now.
The tape deck does make it easier to have that aux cord or a Bluetooth cassette thing in it.
Right. By the way, this is actually pretty good. It's different, and I like it. It's not.
What are these boys doing in your yard?
I don't know. You may turn the sprinklers on.
Yes.
So I can watch my water bill quadruple like it did that one time I ran them for a week.
What's a water
You
bill?
got to get on a well, man.
I'll write
That's
the
been
HOA.
such a pain in the ass. Dude, I've had so much trouble with that.
Are you on a well
Yes.
at your house? Oh,
The
man.
house is. It's like I like this house, but man, that house is a piece of shit.
Fortunate for us, our house is still new enough that we haven't had any septic or well problems.
Yeah,
Knock on
check
wood.
back in 35 years.
Yours is from
81. It's a good year. Yesterday.
Finished in, well, yeah, supposed to be finished in May, actually finished in officially July.
Wait,
No, the house is new.
your house? Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah, he was in it by the end of last year.
Yeah. The area that we're in is, was like, yeah, it's a weird long story, but the subdivision-ish thing that we're in
Rush
was
on.
started in the 70s. And
Okay.
they just never built more than half of it out.
Oh.
So there's just these old-ass wooden lots, and you have a couple of people throwing houses up on them every now and again.
okay, cool.
That's what we ended up in.
I don't know why I thought. I wonder which one of our friends bought a house that's a little older. I don't remember. I'm drawing a blank. It's been a year. It's been a
Getting
life.
old, man.
Well, I haven't seen Russell in 4 years.
Have you seen his house?
No, it's probably huge, isn't it?
It's all right. Yeah.
He lives on the moon though, just like you do.
Yeah, he's way out there in Belmont. And then, yeah, he and his wife did. I mean, they put the work in. I mean, they made their money really, really work for them. But that place is nice.
Are they having any kids now?
I believe they're attending that. Yeah.
Oh, that's the fun part.
I'd
The
say
shit
so.
part is
Right.
like having to take care of them.
Yeah. that whole diaper thing does not look like it works.
Not really. I mean, it's kind of a shitty, no pun intended, idea. Like, isn't there a better idea than?
You want a toilet trainer toddler?
Split pants.
Litter box. It's easier to scoot. Like, just
raise-
teach them to shit in there and cover it up. Like,
I mean, isn't that what
raise
we
the kid
kind of do?
outside.
I mean, there's a room in the house that we kind of go to do all of our business in one spot.
well, that's true, but we
It's
don't
kind
waste.
of
I
like
don't waste a lot of
litter
water. Like,
That's true.
Doing
we're,
it with
we're
them.
really environmental, or anti-environment rather. Yeah, it's why you're supposed to piss in the shower. I think in like California,
that's,
I believe there's actually been PSAs to that effect.
you
I'm
piss
not
on
sure
your
everybody
feet
follows
to
on
kill
it.
athlete's foot.
Is that a fact?
Yep.
I've heard that for what is it?
antifungal
Jellyfish
cream-
stings.
What's that?
Yeah, I
Isn't
heard
it
about that too.
jellyfish
Yeah,
Stings are
yeah.
supposed to.
The
yeah.
athlete's foot, like that antifungal cream's not that expensive, guys.
That's true. But you're also supposed to pee all over yourself if you go to R. Kelly's house too.
I believe that. Yeah, I
thought that was outsourced.
I did hear that there's been movies to that effect. Yeah.
I think so, and I think that must be like the number one spot for athletes' feet and jellyfish.
Might be. I mean, if you're living next to the beach and you're exercising a lot, I mean, I think he and his crew probably they keep in shape. Right?
Yep. Next topic.
Haters
I'll
wanna
tell you what, though,
hate,
that in the
lovers
closet
wanna
series.
love. I don't want none of the above. I'm gonna piss on you.
Drip, drip, drip.
Trip, trip, trip.
What a genius comic. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I showed Emily Louis C.K.'s "Of Course, But Maybe" bit. Have you seen that?
That's a great bit.
That's a good one. That she said, well, that's not untrue, actually.
I think he's going to be. Yeah, I bet he's going to be back.
He'll be back.
Pretty quick.
And my I don't.
Maybe not
Sorry.
here in the States, but
No, I think so. And
He's touring.
He's touring now.
It
is he?
remains non-PC,
is
but
it
he's
kind of
still
like
touring.
Is it kind of like the Aziz tour where like he's working but nobody talks about it until he shows up?
I don't know if it's like that or not, but when I was in the chair last week getting inked, Troy and I were talking about things, and one of my friends had and I've unsubscribed from her very shortly after this comment, because you guys are gonna fucking roll your eyes back in your head 200 times, but she's like, I just read that 1 in 6 women have been sexually assaulted in some way, and then I was and in my mind I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, because people fucking suck.
I've seen articles that are way over that.
And then she goes, that makes a lot of men rapists.
Right.
And I went, well, no, that's not how that works. Okay, so what Louis C.K. did was creepy, but he's not a rapist. What Aziz Ansari did that was a bad date. He's not a rapist, from what I've read. It went too far. She didn't say no, and then afterwards she felt like, okay, I think that went too far, and then he felt bad about it. He actually did. But the problem now though is you're not allowed to have a nuanced opinion. The fact that if I would,
nuance is bad.
Yeah, absolutely. There's black and white. There's no gray.
Nuance tends to be apologetic.
To which side?
I mean, the wrong side.
Are you playing devil's advocate now?
I mean, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so like what Louis did was weird and creepy, but Louis C.K. is not a rapist. Yeah. So I don't doubt that 1 in 6 women have been, but like the construction worker who is on his lunch break catcalling is probably a piece of shit for doing that. I'll give you that. It's creepy. That guy's not a rapist either.
Sure.
But you're lumped into it, and I like people got involved in that conversation, and I'm so proud of myself because 33-year-old me doesn't do what 23-year-old me, and then interject myself into this and say, well, look, guys, it's like you can write out the most eloquent response to anything, but today, and this is coming from Mr. Captain Liberal, I know better than to get into these conversations because sometimes you're just not going to change their minds.
I mean, I think that it's fair without trying to get too political on it. But I mean, I think it's fair for some people, to be concerned about hollowing out the meaning of words. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's also to a certain degree fair to give people the freedom to have their own, what assault or, for lack of a better, rape means to them. Mm-hmm. Some people really want to run with that to where it means absolutely everything. I'm not sure I'm entirely the person to tell them no, but I think that hollowing out meaning is something to be concerned about.
Think of it this way, guys. Paul Rubens is back to work.
Nice, and he was just beating himself off.
Public masturbator.
Yeah, but well. And
that's
Paul Rubens.
Yeah,
okay.
He was having a little too much weed with the pee.
Well, he was in.
That was a weird time when you had to go to theaters to see porn.
And it was
I can't imagine living in that world.
And I don't think that it's really looking back. That's not really weird because what did you go there anyway for? You didn't go there.
Integrity,
you didn't
talent,
you didn't take your grandmother there and have tea time with her.
It's one of those weird like where we're not having a genuine conversation on what something is. I mean, so. In the same way that people were shocked that somebody might masturbate in a theater watching porn. Imagine.
Yeah.
With the same thing with the whole like the college scandal that you're seeing today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying anybody should just buy their way into college, but I do very clearly remember my mom tearing my ass a new one about my grades because, and I'll quote her, I can't buy your way into college like some of these other kids. And I mean, what is that? Back in 2000? Mm-hmm. I mean,
because you're a little older.
It's not exactly new.
You're a year older than me.
Might be.
I'm 33.
Yes.
Okay.
I had to think about that. But no, I mean, it's not exactly new that the wealthy and privileged, sitting at the top, are buying their kids into a good life.
Of course.
I'm pretty sure that's been going on at least since the end of World War II.
I was going to say, when was the fall of the Roman Empire?
That, but
if you have money, it's easier to make money.
But at least in terms of like a semblance that is close enough to modern day that we can relate to it.
Harvard's been around since 1636, so that long.
Yeah, I mean something like that. But see, I graduated 11th in my class out of 300. I got 0 scholarships, and I applied for 4 of them. And
I didn't even get the left-handed one.
You should have applied for the wrong-handed one.
That's
you can get a handicap sticker for being left-handed.
Yeah, nobody ever talks about right privilege. It's kind of a thing.
Oh, that's going on my little notepad right here. Well, I guess we should delve back into what the topics of the podcast are after cracking open another delicious beer to share. This has been a good sharing episode.
If you feel like going coastal, we don't have to keep that theme because everybody could get one.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's go coastal.
Yay.
Better than postal, I suppose. Oh, these are tall boys.
Yep.
These are large men's. I got to go back to work tomorrow, guys.
Thanks, Costco. I got to go to work
I've gotta-
tonight.
I've been on vacation
What
for a
time do you
week.
have to go to work tonight?
10ish.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's why we do these on the days I don't valet. Like I'm lit on cold meds.
How's the
and no
valeting
sleep.
things these days?
Slow.
I've almost thought about getting back into it.
I know a guy. Everything with our company's downtown or in South Park.
Who do you
but-
work for these days?
Fleet.
Okay.
Greta?
Yeah. 'Cause
Native.
I was
New Led Zeppelin's the jam.
More
one
for
of
you.
my jobs getting through college was at Park Inc., which at
Okay.
the time they had a monopoly in Charlotte, and then they were managed so well that over the course of, I want to say it was something short, it was like 4 years, they went down to 50% market share. It was pretty bad.
I think valeting would be a fun, like, part-time gig, though. I mean,
The only thing is, you think, oh yeah, I'm driving cars, it's awesome. Really, it's 33% standing around, probably about 50% running around to go get a car.
100% kissing ass.
Yeah,
I'm used to that, though. And I'm on my feet all day.
I do really like the civil engineering for a largely kiss ass free day. It's nice for that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But see, I get to pretend, but the thing is, I'm good with words, so I can be rude to somebody and them not know it because most customers are morons. So it's a useful skill. But I told Mark before you got here, Steve, I was like, I'm just going to do as much entertainment stuff I can do as possible until I just don't have to be a slave to corporate America anymore. I'll do the music thing, the podcast thing. I'll produce Jess's audiobooks for when she wants me to. I'll just do as much shit as possible so one day I don't have to kiss anybody's ass that doesn't deserve it.
Yeah,
Which is most people, actually.
yeah.
You know what? Nobody deserves to have their ass kicked because we're all humans.
A good ass kissing is kind of nice from time to
Just
time.
because
Wait,
you-
kicked or kissed?
I mean,
I'm not saying I necessarily deserve it, but it's nice from time to time.
well, everybody likes their ego stroked. But,
Sure. That's probably a more accurate statement.
yeah, why do you think most people are musicians that play live? I mean, we love playing, but we like the attention.
I was kind of assumed that there was a decent amount of people where that was just sort of a mental outlet that allowed them to kind of calm down or focus some energy in some way or another.
Oh Lord, if I didn't have it, I don't really know what I'd be doing. Like, I don't have any passion about. I played basketball. I thought I was going to go to college to play basketball for when I was in high school. I had no idea I was going to be playing music.
You're not. You're like 2 feet too short.
I went to Bob Gibbons recruiting camp 2 years in a row.
Well, for what it's worth, Emily played basketball too.
Like
What,
Rondo.
NCAA league or something.
Like, isn't pretty much the minimum these days like 6'8"?
Well, Anthony Morrow was in my Rajon Rondo was in our group. Like, I was at this camp with people and who are in the pros now. But,
I had 1 year where I was really good at basketball. I want to say this was like right at the beginning of middle school, and I was a good 3 inches taller than everybody else. So my defense was just completely unstoppable. And then the next year, not so much.
Like Kreischer that talked about going to basketball camp in Florida.
yeah.
It was bonkers.
Oh hell yeah! Joe Rogan's live with Ron White again.
Ooh.
The first,
he's had Ron White on before.
yeah, he's had, and it was really good. And
Where
Ron White,
do I find this #1 tequila his? I always drink tequila when I do. I want it to be his or Hagar's.
well, he had Joe Rogan had Richard Rawlings on, and I'm not. His personality's a little over the top, but you know who Richard Rawlings is, don't you?
Not by name.
Gas
I'm
Monkey
not awful
Garage?
with names.
Fast and Loud guy.
Fast and Loud guy. He
I
had
don't
him
love
on.
him that much.
He
I didn't. But
looks like
the podcast was good though. Like
Right.
with him, because he really is. He's like, you know what? I figured out how to make a living doing the things I love to do, like building cars and drinking beer. And they have their own. They have Gas Monkey energy drinks. They have a Gas Monkey tequila that they make in Texas. They ship the agave in from Mexico and make it in Texas. Yeah, so it's actually like the only tequila made in the United States.
does that mean that tequila is automatically short poured?
Probably.
Is it sort of like
Alex Roy,
champagne
other,
where it has to be, or at least with the agave? Does the agave have to be grown in Mexico?
I'll get back to you on that. I've heard that that's true, but the same thing.
I've had a couple of bad nights with tequila, but I'm not really that studied up on it.
Right, because I had to explain. Like Gray was fighting with me one night about bourbon can only be from Bourbon County, Kentucky, and I had to tell him no, that's not true. That's
no
really
offense,
not true.
Gray, but that is something you would fight.
That's absolutely. I was like, no, this is not true.
I'd rather not buy stuff from Kentucky. Sorry, Corvettes. Sorry, fried chicken.
Have you heard about the new one? The delays on the mid-engine one.
I don't like it.
I heard that the testing went horribly wrong, so it had to be towed off.
So it's twin turbo V8.
Not a super.
Well, I think the lower models are, but
Okay.
the top end twin turbo. The frame that they've prototyped is not strong enough for the torque that the engine's throwing out. So they're bending the frame and breaking the rear glass of the car during testing.
It's not a bad problem to have, if I'm honest.
I mean, it's kind of a great
kind of
Corvette
amazing.
problem to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm lining up to buy one.
If they
I
make them all
certainly can't
soft
afford
tops,
it,
problem
but
solved.
Guys, we're an hour and 10 minutes in. It's going to be very car heavy. So if you want to continue, if you don't want to continue,
I mean, I'm good for
Joke's
being
on
car
them.
heavy.
I don't. I'm adamantly opposed to the Corvette being mid-engine. I'm absolutely. If GM wanted to build a separate mid-engine supercar, proper supercar, and call it the
Chevrolet
Zora,
Fiero.
call it the Zora, I'm okay with it. But I don't like the idea. And that's the nostalgia coming out of me
Sure.
of a car built from '53 being front engine rear wheel drive and it going to mid engine rear wheel drive.
I can sort of see that. I mean, I don't really care one way or the other, but I mean, I can see
buy
that
one.
argument. Like, yeah, there is heritage established to it.
I'm doing a podcast. God damn it! All right, that was
tell
Thomas. He called me again. I'm just vehemently like. I'm glad you see it my way, like because the Corvette. And you know what? I didn't know how fast the C4 ZR1 really was.
At the time, it was incredible. Yeah,
4.5, like it was like 4.40 to 60.
yeah.
And 92, like that's unheard of.
Fast boat.
I mean, it was as fast as my Mustang is now, but 20 years earlier.
And the thing, and it doesn't weigh anything.
And I'm not saying the Mustang's super fast, but I mean, it's not a slouch.
It's incredible. I had no idea. Like the numbers it was putting out. And
but that's the
handle,
ZR1.
Yeah.
The Z06 fell off that cliff pretty hard.
Well, yeah, it's true. Thomas, you have failed me, sir. He knows what I'm
Sir.
doing. Yeah. I still love that. That might be my guilty pleasure. I've always loved C4s.
An old coworker of mine had one.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, he really loved it. You know, the whole any car with a hood where it hinges forwards, neat. But no, that
Doesn't do
car
it for
was
you?
kind of a piece of shit.
Oh, hey there, 84 Accord.
That's true. Yeah. I'm still thinking about a Viper.
I am. Am I correct in saying I'm the biggest proponent for the Viper?
Yep.
Because I think that it very, very well encapsulates what you want, what you're really going to use the car for, and critically, because realistically, none of us are independently rich here, your budget. Because I mean, I think you're going in a pretty good spot. I think Steve's recommended to you a couple times the Evora special editions.
Oh yeah,
great suggestion, no doubt about it. But I mean, those are going to start at
60?
the top of the 40s for one that has seen some miles. Yeah, I mean, realistically, those all book out at 10 something.
Yeah.
So
I'll
even
just wait.
used, you're up in the 70s, 80s really fast. And a lot of the more interesting Lotus, they just hold some decent value. I mean, they do drop, but then they plateau, and that's it. I mean, a lot of the older stuff, the NSX, great, but I mean, a really good one of those. What are those? Almost hitting 90 now? It's stupid.
They are. They're
What's the entry fee? Like
So,
30?
all of the negatives that you would have with the Viper typically being, some maintenance costs, definitely the tires, fuel consumption, some of the stuff that's just not really livable for, most of us. you don't drive it that often.
Yeah,
you
don't
kind
gotta
of-
pay for gas. You don't drive
you
it,
kind
man.
of have it, and you look at it. You're going to get all of the positives, which are a presence that you almost can't buy now. Because I mean, if you park, especially if it's in a bright color, and I'm not traditional. I've never owned a car that was a bright color, but I kind of get it.
Yeah.
If you have that in red, parked next to pretty much anything, it still has a bunch of precedents at a $300,000 differential in price.
Yeah. By
That's
the way,
steal.
the new 2020 rendering of the Lotus Elise is, oh my goodness.
Yep.
Wow. That's pretty.
So so what I'm seeing is very much if somebody hybridized a C7 Corvette and a last edition Elise.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad look. Honestly,
In that color, though. Steve and I love teal.
I'm like one of 3 people who agree on this, but the headlights are the one thing I don't love about the C7 Corvette.
Fair enough. And here's the 2020 Esprit concept. Looks a lot like an NSX.
Looks a lot like a Huracan.
I'd still not kick.
It looks a lot like an NSX or a McLaren because I can't tell those apart. Whoops. Yep. Wedge blob.
No,
Whatever.
Most of the McLaren. McLaren, they're getting a little bit more. I don't want to call them mundane because you can't call a McLaren mundane, but
It's losing its charm.
the P1 looked special, and I feel like they're dropping off of that a little bit. I mean, you gave me one, I'm probably going to keep it.
Oh, of course.
But
Yeah.
if somehow I found the money, the only McLaren I would buy is a P1.
I'd buy the F1. But now that there's $16
bigger
million,
F.
I would definitely, I say buy the only McLaren I would buy with money that I somehow had. It's P1.
so you would want to reliably drive it and not fear killing yourself.
It'd be great.
Yeah, buying the F1 is like somebody handing you the keys to the space shuttle and going, "Here you go, don't die."
I've seen a lot of people that indicate that the P1 is still pretty hairy.
Oh yeah,
It's
also
great.
it's also the future, and it's hybrid.
Well, this thing though, I mean, it the way it's hybridized, probably not now. I mean, we're going electric pretty quick. I mean, the battery technology is
It's getting there.
thankfully kind of catching up. I mean, I'm actually really, really interested in the is it the Rivian? The truck. I can't wait to see how that real world tows. Because theoretically, between the chassis and what the motors are capable of, it's capable of, I think, 11,000 pounds towing, which is perfect. So my biggest fantasy in wanting a truck is I like this dream that I would be able to tow my car to the racetrack, because apparently I do that more in this dream.
Of course, we all dream.
And right. So yeah, in my dream world, I'm doing, a dozen, 10, maybe a dozen track days a year, towing the car up there, having a great weekend, headed back. So you need a tow car, truck. All right.
This morning I had a dream that I had a shitty old RV. I think you're dreaming better.
My wife would love one of those. What is it?
A Vixen.
No, the what's the metal ones that look
Airstream.
Airstream. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, no, my wife's all about that. Or we might end up trying to rent one at some point because
Hell yeah.
I don't see buying one. They're really expensive.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
No, probably.
Although
not.
you can open up in the NC Music Factory and serve hot dogs out of one.
I have seen that. Yeah. I don't think that's what we're doing, but yeah, I like the idea of a tow car. So that truck's supposed to have a range of 400 miles, which, I mean, once cars started breaking deep into the 300s, you got to the point where it's practical for a lot of people.
Tank of gas.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it can do, 300-400 miles, for most people doing some sort of weekend warrioring, electric cars, great. We're finally getting into that. That's awesome. But towing, typically range goes down a lot. Now, does that go down to 320? That's okay. Does it go down to 100 miles? Because that's not okay.
Yeah.
But
What are you towing in your trailer? More batteries?
right? And when you've got all that stuff in tow, then
Battery
just
trailer.
trying to get up to
Why is
Virginia
that not a
International
thing?
Raceway takes you half a day. It's too much.
Uh-huh. And the thing that is holding me back from going all in on electric cars is not the speed.
Yeah.
If you can make the car faster, by all means. Efficiency, by all means. To me, it is the sound, the rumble of an internal combustion engine.
It's nice.
As the Jeep is pretty slow, but it's a stick and revving it out and I've got an exhaust on it and just the rumble of it just feels good. It feels masculine. It feels good to drive. It's fun to drive. It's just like a throwback old school push rod inline motor from a simpler time. But the good part is, I think in 100 years, what will happen? The cars that are used on the weekends for the Cars and Coffee will be the gas powered ones. It'll be the throwback. Your everyday car will be electric, and you're not going to care. It's going to be an appliance.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
Honestly.
And then on the weekend, you have fun with your gasoline powered engine or motorcycle.
The only
car.
thing that's going to make entry level to that a little bit more difficult is and I mean I think realistically it's a little bit further away than some people want to dream, and it's a little bit closer than people who don't think the electric car is ever going to catch on think it'll be. But as some of the infrastructure for fuel starts dying off, I mean you can get 50-gallon barrels of race fuel, relatively speaking, cheap. Mm-hmm. They're not cheap, but if that's what you're about,
comparatively,
So, and that's kind of what you'll start seeing, and so what will be left in terms of internal combustion will be mostly interesting stuff. And what will be, I think, really interesting to see is here as the market starts to evolve, a lot of people aren't learning how to drive manual. So some of the pretty interesting cars that have been made in the last handful of years that are manual, when that market starts dropping, oh boy,
oh yeah,
I'm in.
Yep.
I can't wait to the Cayman GT4. That's what I'm holding.
That's your thing.
Yeah. If we can work it out, that's 5 years is maybe being a little bit ambitious, but we'll see.
Because I'm really all about an NSX. Because I'm about the miles per gallon now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And even though funny enough, the S2K and NSX are 1 second apart from each other on Nürburgring lap times.
I think I've heard that. But I think the NSX actually has a surprisingly low time.
It does, but
as good as it is,
the balance and the fun. Yeah. Like, because if I had like my perfect, like look at my cool car in my garage, what I can only have one of would be a supercharged. And the Science of Speed makes superchargers for the NSX that are Roots style. Good
for the street, not for the track.
Absolutely. Would be super duper fun in an NSX.
I was talking to so I mean if anybody listening has never done it, I am a super advocate for track days. For one, because they're a bunch of fun.
I know you are.
You're aware.
I get that text every couple of weeks.
But also, I mean, just the people that you meet there are incredibly friendly. I mean, top 5% most friendly people you've ever run into. I ran into a guy. He and his buddy were sharing a mammoth trailer. His friend had a F360 challenge car, so just the Lexan glass full race, and then he had a supercharged NSX, and even with a meth injection, it wouldn't stay hot. It wouldn't stay cool for more than 10 minutes on the track. He had to pull in.
Yeah, I mean,
it just overheats. You can't get enough cooling to that specific mid-engine platform.
No, there's not a good way to do it. Not really. I mean,
he was putting. I want to say, if I remember rightly, he was saying he was getting a little bit over 400 horsepower out of that.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That thing was flying.
That's what we need to do when Steve
for
gets
the
a
two
new car.
laps. It could stay cool.
We need to turn the Vibe into a track day.
Put the supercharged Elise motor in it.
Gut it, and just supercharge it.
So why don't you guys do one where both you guys come out, because you can drive stick.
He does drive stick.
Everything that's been registered to me has been stick.
So let's bust out. let's bring the S2000 down. We'll do an autocross.
I need a new clutch.
In the S2000, it's starting to let go.
They told me it needed a new clutch when I bought it,
and it's held on this far. So
I don't want to drive it.
do you think you're going to replace the clutch?
Yes, but probably if I do forced induction, I'm taking it down to Florida to to LHT, because when you do the supercharger kit, they do good work. They put the new clutch. You saw they bought an NSX. Right?
I'm still a little dubious about how well that would hold up in terms of like heat soak and actual, because I mean I base most of this on, I mean, the Mustang is, at least the way I have it with the upgraded radiator and everything now, incredibly overkill for the highway, barely able to hang on at high RPM, under race conditions. And I suspect the S2000 would have similar issues, where it'd be amazing on the highway, and 10 minutes into a session it would start struggling.
It's tricky. I haven't looked into it. I have a feeling,
but it depends on what you're using it for. I mean, if you're never taking it to the track, not a problem.
Yeah. Well, they do. I think they will. They'll do the race radiator, and they're already aftercooled anyway.
Yeah.
So theoretically, it should be okay. But the amount of the power they're putting out of those things for the that's what I told. Another thing we talked about while I was in the chair. I was in the chair for 3 fucking hours, getting stabbed repeatedly. But he was telling me, we were talking about cars, and I was like, the beauty of owning an S2K is that you're done. If you want to go faster, if you want to go a lot faster, the only thing you have to buy is forced induction, and then a rear end, because if you do a lot of clutch dumps in that thing, it's going to grenade. But like handling wise, it's done. Engine normally aspirate. Like I did the exhaust because of the sound. I might have gotten 1 horsepower out of it.
What'd you do to the exhaust?
NVIDIA. I got an NVIDIA Q300. Okay. Guy traded me straight up.
Nice.
For my UK modded stock exhaust. So it's lighter. I'd say about 15 pounds.
I didn't know how you had something after the UK mod, because you kept talking about that. That's the last one I knew.
I did, and I also saved 15 pounds. So that's the NVIDIA exhaust.
Okay.
Which is super quiet. But then when you want it to be loud, it will get loud. And I like that.
The Mustang's loud full all the time.
My computer's got NVIDIA,
once
but
it's warm, it's okay
silent.
at idle. But yeah, at the higher PM, I'm busting through 150 decibels.
Yours instead of Radeon.
If you stand about 10, if you do a test about 10 feet away, at the top of the rev range, I'm busting through 150.
Is it an off-road X pipe?
Yeah.
Then that is pretty loud, because a buddy Josh Hegler had an off-road X pipe on his.
With mine, I still have the resonators, so you cut out a lot of the drone and some of the really high end sounds that don't hit your ear that well. But
so here you go. Here's one for your ears. Maybe this is why I can't hear. So Josh traded his 97 GT that he had off-road X. He had stuff done. He got an 01 GT with off-road X pipe and 410 gears.
Yeah.
And it was
first gear's useless.
It was absolutely useless. He had 315 tires on the back of it.
That's pretty wide.
It's pretty wide.
Goodness.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But like at 75 miles per hour, he was tacking 3,500 RPM.
That's so ridiculous.
With an off-road X pipe.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. By the way, he ran really good times at the drag. He ran high 12s in it, like with burning it halfway down the track, because the gears alone, you're always, if you can shift it good, and he could shift it pretty good.
I mean, man, I'm surprised he wasn't lower than that.
He's spinning it all the way down.
Theoretically, if you could shift well, and you just did like the barely DOT legal, whatever, like
the radial drag radial, or
what is it, 100 tread wear,
something like that. Yeah, pencil shavings when you burn them.
The Mustang will hit 11s. And people have done it with, still factory tuner and everything, just different tires, and people who can actually drag race regularly have hit 11s. When I say 11s, I mean 11, 9, 8, 7, something like that. But
it's still under
you're
12.
Cheating, but I guess it's under 12. So I'm kind of surprised with all that.
He spun halfway down.
Else.
It just spun all the way.
That
they were Sumitomo 315s, like
too short, rather.
Yeah, it was really short. Still a pretty fun car, but it used to. They used to shit on me in high school a little bit, because my friends all had Mustang V8s.
Yeah.
I had the Starion, and they just knew it was a 4-cylinder, and they knew it was turbocharged, but they just didn't know. We did a highway run.
I was gonna say, you were probably stomping on them.
We did a highway run up to 100 when I was at Stock Boost, and I ran. I just right there with them, like. And he's like, I had no idea them things ran like that.
It'll be really interesting when our friend Gerald has his car, I guess, finished on his rebuild, because he's rebuilding almost everything. But
at this point, his is 94.
His is a 95 Mitsubishi 3000 GT. His was a really clean example, but somewhat similar to what I did. If you run it at VAR hard enough and long enough, you start to wear out a lot of those factory bushings and some of the components where they cheaped out. You find out.
Well, especially in mid 1990s Mitsubishi.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, he kept up with a 2013 Mustang pretty well.
True. I mean, they are set up really well, but I owned 2 Mitsubishis, and I know that they don't inspire confidence and longevity sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
They are made to be very fun for as long as they last.
I mean, I think especially the VR4, I think it's a little bit underappreciated in that if you look at other cars that were kind of GT style, sort of had 4 seats, pretty quick all-wheel drive turbo. I mean, you're kind of looking at mostly the Imprezas. And if you look for a used Impreza, like let's say from 2005, it's impossible to find one that isn't completely ragged on to within an inch of its life,
or an Evo.
And then people are surprised when you go back 10 plus years older than that, and you can't find a VR4 that isn't ragged on within an inch of its life and happens to be 10 years older.
Yeah.
Or its little sister Eclipse, same diff.
Yeah. Well, the Eclipse did have, I guess, that crank walk issue.
The second gen did. The first gen DSM engines were rock solid.
Really?
Rock solid. A buddy of mine in StarQuest Club, he had a Conquest, but he also, his wife drove the Conquest into the meets. He drove his F350, trailering in the Laser. He had a 91 Plymouth Laser all-wheel drive with 450 all-wheel horsepower on 4 slicks that he would just try to break at the track because he didn't care. And that car ran high 10s all fucking day. He would just rev it out to $7,000 and dump the clutch, get the tires hot, and just run high 10s all fucking day in that thing.
I don't think I've ever dropped the Mustang north of 4,000.
I've never dropped it in S2K. I know better.
It. But I mean, even so, I'm still having to rebuild the rear end.
Well, your differential's stronger than the S2000s is, because mine wasn't made for that much torque.
The Ford 8.8.
Yeah, rookie.
Yeah, the rookie stuff. But I mean, even so, I have sitting at the house because I have just boxes of parts for this rebuild. So I'm going for the motorsports diff now. So instead of locking up, being able to send, I think the factory one is like right at 200% of torque from one wheel that's slipping to the one that has grip. And then the Boss 302 could do 280%. This new one will be able to do 400%.
Some is good, more is better.
It's going to be an upgrade. Cool. I'm excited.
Steve's trying to do the math in his head. I could see the gears turning.
Four
fell
X 4X torque split from one wheel to the other at its max.
Honda did that. Remember the last gen Prelude with the square headlights?
Yeah, loved that.
I love those things. Yeah. Steve, you love those things, don't you? Have you ever ridden or driven one?
No. Well, no, I've ridden in one. I haven't driven one.
Was it an SH?
Ages ago.
Was it an SH?
Honestly, don't remember. This would have been sophomore year of high school. I
drove an SH, and that is one of the best handling cars I've ever ridden in, and that includes riding in a Type R Integra. It had something called an ATTS, which is an active torque transfer. So in hard steering, so if you took a hard turn to the right, 90% went to that outside wheel. 90% of the power went to your outside left wheel.
So for both of you guys, especially you, Steve, in terms of driving feel, just that what you feel through the steering wheel, that connectivity, what do you think the best car you've ever driven is?
I think I own it.
Because, I mean, especially being in the valet game, I mean, it's been a while since I've been there.
You can't run it through the ringer, though, really. So,
yeah.
Are we talking like under, or are we just talking about in general?
Oh, I mean, in general, but I mean, from my valet times, I mean, generally you're getting it to the lot because you've got rent to pay. I mean, like the whole, Ferris Bueller's Day Off thing's actually pretty rare because, I mean, you got rent, but it occasionally happens. And I mean, at the very least, just trying to get the car back to the customer pretty quick. I mean,
and
you whip it
is
through
nice.
a couple of right hand, corners somewhat quick. I mean, you can at least feel what has a great
one of my
handle on
one
it.
of my favorites from like back when I first lived in Charlotte back in 0102 remerged a couple of years ago. That was an
BMW.
M5 like 03-ish.
I think that would have been E39.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's long since
Was that
been a
that would have been
favorite.
the 4-liter V8?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good car.
Yeah,
that's a good ride.
That has always stood out as a favorite, and I keep on being 40 grand short to get one and 40 grand short to keep it running.
Really? I thought you could pick this up a little bit cheaper than that now.
Fine,
I mean,
but still.
Conditions,
it's
of course,
just-
a problem.
Yeah, the guy was like, I keep thinking I want to sell this car, but I drive it, and then I don't. Sounds about right.
I
It
would
is
say you should
mercilessly
check
difficult
in
to
with
keep
some
running.
of the local. I mean, some of the local BMW groups, because some of those people will have some pretty interesting stuff like that. And I mean, they do. Some of them do turn it over. And well, in the case that they do, you're dealing with cars that are immaculately well kept.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they're at least going to start asking a little bit of a premium, but I mean, they are well
There
kept.
was an 87 M6 that was regular at Cards and Cappuccino, the all-European one.
Yeah.
I
I wasn't invited to that.
Invitation, some invitation. Shoot, dude, I haven't driven anything European since 02.
I actually get
but I go in, walk in with the camera. They don't care.
I still get invited to all the local BMW car club stuff, which is pretty nice. But
Even though you were never an official member.
yeah, but one of my other good friends,
they welcome
has
fans.
a
It's okay.
E92, or no, he has an E90 M3, the 4-door V8, and yeah, he's invited me to a couple other things, and then for the most part, I keep up with their group very well. And so I get invited back.
I haven't been to a car show in forever, but I've got a decent enough camera and a happy attitude.
Sure.
They'll happily have me. It's like, let's go take pictures or whatever and post it on my Dread Pirate Bluetooth Instagram account. That's all car stuff.
So I'd still love to get you guys. It'd be good to do one. Just take some audio snips and maybe just report on it for the podcast from both of you back to back at an autocross.
So do you want us to do a commentary like Clarkson does around the Ebolodrome or around the test track while you're doing it?
I mean, you could just more or less do a recap of the experience. So at least one thing that I found, and
Live in car.
I decided to start doing autocross when I first got a car that actually had some power to it. Because I didn't want, and it's a Mustang. You're going to wrap it around a tree immediately, usually backwards, through a crowd.
Through a crowd
And
first.
I
yeah.
figured it'd be best if I didn't do that.
Did you get the sticker for the front that says "Insert crowd here"?
No, I haven't yet. Although I actually have a replacement rear emblem for it that is the VIR logo. I'm kind of excited for that. But so I found in the autocross, and I really would, I kind of think that this should go out to, I mean, honestly, driver's ed. I think it's an experience that even if people aren't particularly interested in it, it's an exercise in car control that would be very educational pretty much for anybody. Because you learn there's almost 3 levels to what you think the car is going to do, what the car actually wants to do, which is usually different from what you think it's going to do, when you throw it into a corner really hard. Mm-hmm. And then in your mind, well, if I turn the wheel this way, the car will do what I want it to do. That's probably not true. You need to learn what you actually need to do to make the car do what you want it to do. And having some sort of experience with that prior to it raining and being foggy and all of a sudden you need that information, I think would be really useful for bringing down fatal crash rates in the country.
That's
so
Finland. Finland has really strict. I think you had to be 19 years old.
I think a couple of the Nordic nations.
And Germany at 18, and there's there's many hours of driver's training.
Yeah, you have to like do like the slalom when it's wet and things like that too. I don't disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree.
And I mean, aside from that, just the comedy of because I mean, and especially in autocross, it's no brakes, 100% brakes, and then get back off the brake as fast as you possibly can, to go again. So yeah, there's a little bit of that kind of comedy, and it did this, and blah, blah, I spun it. I would be amused seeing both you guys, especially if you could both do it in the S2000 and go back to back, and then Steve's faster.
Steve would be faster. Do you know why?
Because you won't.
He wouldn't care about breaking it. Because I would be the one having to pay for it.
And that's how this is never happening. So, like I said earlier, beater S2000.
Credit to everybody.
An extra car.
It's pretty rare. I mean, it certainly happens. I'm sure you can go on YouTube and find it, but it's pretty rare for somebody to damage a car at autocross. It doesn't. It
took one
I'm
cone
sure
too
it happens,
many to
but
the
it
grill.
doesn't really happen.
I know it would be fun, but if you haven't looked around, I have a lot of hobbies I already do.
Yeah.
And I don't need another one that costs me money. I need another one that makes me money.
It's the best. It's for sure my hobby that costs me the most, but it's the best.
How you feel about autocross is how I feel about music, and music pays me to do it instead of me having to.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
I'm
kind of off of autocross anymore. It's got to be the full track day,
right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're rolling through something at 90 plus,
I'd like to do it, and I'd like to get the cleanest example of an NA Miata and gut it and just race it. That would be what I would do if I don't have the room to keep it though.
Right.
So
you don't need any room because probably just stack it on top of the S2000.
we'll just carry it up here into the studio. We'll just do it from the Miata.
get a lift. A garage lift is much cheaper than I thought they were.
I'll start a GoFundMe, and you better be the first donation.
So honestly, when we bought the house, I looked into this because, we were buying a house. I was pretty sure I couldn't afford it anyway because I was like, well, you know what, dude, the cheap ones must open up at $6,000-7,000, something like that. Now you can actually get a pretty decent lift. I mean, not the best.
Do you want a decent lift though?
Well, I mean, reliable.
It's just okay.
Very, very well reviewed. You know, it's not just the cheap Chinese parts. For $1,825 for a pretty damn good one. Which I mean, it's still a lot of money, but that's less than half what I thought those cost.
Yeah.
If you're really into wrenching on the car, that makes it so much easier. We don't really have room in the garage that we have now, so I don't see that in my future. But
our garage is tall.
I can only imagine one set up in your old garage.
That
was like the 3-car deep one.
Yeah.
And half a car wide.
I have a 6-car garage, and it's only 1 car wide.
The place that Colin bought, it's half finished basement, half garage.
Yeah.
But it's a 4-car deep garage with like unfinished enclave. So at least you could access the car from one side easily, or if you're feeling really saucy, like wedge it into that extra part.
Right.
But that's also where the rest of the house supports are, so be careful. But this really cool place built in '68.
Is that when the house you're in now was?
No, the one that Colin bought. The one I'm in is '81 with a semi-detached garage, and the more time that passes, the more leaks we're finding, the worse the power bill gets. It's been an ordeal.
Speaking of ordeal, I'm out of beer.
You too.
No. We got to remedy that.
I'm just behind you.
All right. The thing I want to, I love the S2K, but if I were to get rid of it, I'm gonna have to spend twice as much to enjoy. But what can I get for under 40?
So to bring it back, Viper. And this is the main reason that I suggest the Viper to you is because it has so much presence.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's enough power. I mean, it'd be thrilling.
Absolutely.
And it's cheap. It's stupid cheap for what it is.
I love the way they sound. I love a good V10 rumble.
V10 is probably my favorite. Mm-hmm.
It's
I know
rough.
V12's
Everybody's like, it's
great.
too rough. I'm like, I like that.
All the ones that rev high though, they just scream.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I like a European style V8, and the Coyote, at least with the X pipe, gets
plane
closer
cranks.
to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all about it. I wish I could have that, but that's.
So you don't like the muscle sound as much.
Yeah, it's the what it really is, and it took me until I kind of got deeper into cars to realize this, but it's the high lobed cams where they're trying to get higher end power out of the push rod V8s that don't really breathe nearly as well at the high end, and then the sacrifice of that, the like really like chug that it has to get at the low end because you just have the one single cam. And no, I don't like it. I'm not a big the traditional American muzzle. Not really my thing.
There's a video of an S2K at redline at 9,000 RPMs and a Ferrari 458 at redline. It's almost indiscernible from engine, not exhaust noise, from engine noise alone. The sound of both,
like
it's
in engine bay or behind the cars.
In the car. No, like in the car listening to it rev with stock exhaust.
Okay.
It's so weird to hear.
Yeah.
But it's just the way the engines, I mean, it's like you said, it's the flat plane versus, the 1-1-2.
It's a good sound.
Mm-hmm. But Steve and I had discussed that we think the best modern sounding cars now are AMG Mercedes. Consistently.
I don't think I'd agree.
You don't think so?
That's not to say that the AMG V8s sound pretty good. I'm not that big into the turbo ones.
I think we're talking about the normally aspirated, like the V8 AMG.
Yeah,
so I mean,
least-
if you're talking like a 2000, say whatever 12, 13, C63, yeah. I mean they sound really good. They're pretty mean. I think I would honestly take from that theater. Either the 4-liter Porsche or the 4-liter the S65 Beamer over those.
That's the inline. I don't like the way inline is.
The S65 is the 4-liter V8.
Okay.
And then you have the S85, which is the right. Yeah, the S85 is your 5-liter V10. And then some people offer kits for that bores that out to 5.5 and even 6.
Yeah. Well, the V10 sound, I don't like the way any BMW inline 6 sounds.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah.
I mean, they're okay, but it's not something I would go to.
Steve said it best.
That the new turbo BMW M cars sound like wet farts.
Do you know why they sound like farts?
They pipe in engine.
No.
Well, it's like, so inside the car, you've got a lovely symphony of computer.
Gross.
So the reason that the BMW engines fart as much as they do is because the way that they're electronically controlling that is instead of cutting timing or fuel, the quickest thing that you can cut and have it impact the actual combustion of the engine is ignition because it's electric. So if you stop the electric from firing...
Sometimes it does it, Boogie Woogie. Hate that song.
Got to get a disco move in there. So if you cut the ignition, you still have all of the motion and all your gas is still firing, intake and exhaust and all that. And then you get that late combustion in the warm exhaust. And that's why it sounds like a fart. It's a really, really nerdy way around a problem that people probably shouldn't have ignored.
The Mark in me doesn't like the interior of the Vipers.
That's fair. Yeah, they're not great. Here's the thing, though. You can fix that.
True. I just don't like the way it's set up. Materials wise, like that's one thing, but I just don't like the way it's set up.
It's busy making a Jeep CJ5 look good.
Well, because the interior of the S2000 is actually a fairly nice place to be. Like the dash is soft touch. The interior is soft touch. We are now drinking.
Yeah, what are we up to?
Another thing Mark brought, the Grand Cru Cuvée. double barrel edition, maple bourbon and Marsala wine barrel aged stout and barley wine style ale.
So this
blend.
is the first of the Masala wine related things that I have brought to share.
Yeah. Oh my god. Oh.
So this beer's still too good to cook with, right?
Yeah.
Like Marsala wine. That
Does
makes
Marsala wine
a hell
look
of a-
like a bitch?
Makes a hell of a chicken dish
I
too.
haven't seen that in so long.
Jesus, tap dancing Christ. That's really good.
Okay.
That's really good. Oh, the maple finishes at the very end. That's really good.
That's not too bad.
Oh yeah, I like that.
I don't ever use this phrase, but it does make my mouth feel good.
Mark and I are on the same page with Vipers, but we're not on the same page with side pipes or the 3-spoke wheels because I don't like either of those
I
two
do
things.
love the 3-spoke wheels on the
Side,
Viper.
side pipes, yes. Leg burns, no. 3-spoke wheels, I usually don't like.
No,
the
I don't.
less than
Viper,
Saab.
and then because I think Advan made a set of 3-spoke wheels that were kind of
Maybe?
popular. There's realistically, I mean, you know, I would love for somebody to show me the difference, but there's maybe 5 cars that 3-spoke wheels look really good on,
Fair enough.
and I think the Viper's one of them. But you know, out of the thousands of cars that have ever been made, it's a short
Mustang
list.
GT.
No,
I think it was only the V6 Mustang.
The
that
GT had the
the
3-spoke, but they had the 6-spoke. It was the 3 2-spoke ones. You remember those?
I know.
Okay, yeah, I do like those.
those
okay,
aren't
like
bad.
The
One
splits
of
look
the
better.
one of the concept cars for the new Edge, I think, had 3 spokes, and it looked awful. No, mostly I'm not for
V6 triangles.
3 spokes,
Yeah,
but
to
the
repl-
Viper's an exception to the rule.
So to replace the S2000,
Yeah,
I'm going to have to spend 40 or over. Anything under 40, I don't
not
think
for a Viper. You're not
a really good
one's
clean.
still going to be mid-30s. I mean, like really,
So 35. Oh, so
really,
35.
really
We'll do
good one.
35.
because you can get those in the 20s pretty easily.
I would actually not mind having a Grand Sport Corvette C6. But that you see them everywhere, and that's why I wouldn't want one.
That's why I don't think you would actually like it.
I don't think so
I
either.
really don't think when it came down to putting your money down on it, as you walked up to it one last time before you went in the office to sign the paperwork,
Yeah,
I think you're just going to know. You've got it. First of all, you've got to change your outfits. You got to start cutting off all your jeans just above the knee.
that's true. And wearing New Balance white sneakers.
You know.
Hey, we were already
there's a
talking about
serious
lawns when you
lifestyle
came over.
change. I
So,
think
do you want the mower?
there's a
It's free.
different amount of exclusivity and presence that really is what you go for.
And I would go RT10 Viper.
Yeah,
I was going to go GTS, but the more I look at the RT10, I'm like,
RT10. Yeah, it's you have to go.
Have another convertible.
yeah.
You don't use a convertible.
yeah, but this one I don't have an option because the hardtop looks atrocious on the
again,
RT10.
What the S2000's seen the rain twice?
Yeah,
Once to its
twice.
to its fault, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not going to be a problem.
But so 35 grand, I'm like you can't. I've looked. You can't find a good Viper for 25 grand.
That's
It
what-
has to
so-
be over 30.
A somewhat similar problem is
Who are
why
you, Tyler Hoover?
I came within about half an inch of selling the Mustang a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
Really close, yeah. Well, I mean, just between getting into a new house and just some of the stuff that I've worn out at the track that I mean, just it's a little bit too soft from the factory. If you're really going to just be beating the crap out of it at the track, it needs all that. Yeah, I came really close to selling it, and it came down to okay, I'll go to maybe, God forbid, 5 years without a sports car. What am I going to replace it with? And it came down to the closest I could get is twice the price, and that's the closest I could get. Yeah, shit, it's paid off. What am I wasting that money for?
That's
it's
my
paid
thing, too.
off.
Well, I would go LS swapped RX-7.
Really wouldn't recommend it.
I don't want to buy somebody else's project.
That's a
So
big
I would
problem
have to
there.
buy one with the rotary in it. And then I'd have to
I mean,
do all the work.
you could buy a shell.
I don't want to do that. I would rather buy a complete car and then just...
I mean, realistically, the way to buy an RX-7 now, and nobody do this because I want the opportunity, but so should we get into the whole RX-7 rotary thing?
I mean,
should we go there?
I'm game with it.
It
Should we
seems
go
like
there?
we're knocking on
Steve,
his door.
do you have kind of an opinion on this at all?
I figure if you've got an RX-7 turbo that's working fine, go for it. If the engine blows up, get experimental if you want.
So-
I'm I'm not moved how your RX-7's moved either way, but if there's the FDs are stunning,
Beautiful.
and
car.
I wish they had a convertible option of it. Only FCs did that.
Yeah, they did. They didn't do a convertible option. So, I mean, let's start with kind of the elephant in the room on the whole rotary thing. Is the rotary reliable?
No.
I think realistically, you have to look at the historical context for reliability. To which, no, it isn't. That being said, are there good reasons for why it has been unreliable? Yes. Whether it's people maintaining it, realistically people rebuilding it. I mean, it's just the way the engine works. You do eventually need to replace some of the seals, whether it's apex or side of the rotor, this, that, and the other. From what I've seen on the internet, there were a lot of people who, because the mechanical aspects of disassembling one and putting them back together are relatively simple compared to like retiming a dual overhead cam. So I have seen what is very clearly the work of somebody who looked at it and said, that doesn't look that hard. Hold my beer. Watch this. And they got it kind of wrong. Close, but kind of wrong. And inherently to the rotary engine, the timing of the air, the fuel, and the ignition is pretty important. So pretty close is going to result in failure, especially when somebody went, my buddy did it pretty close. I'm going to put a big turbo on it, and let's see what happens. And then they all fail. Then everybody goes, well, they all fail. Yeah, they all fail. If you look at the builds that people are doing now, with a little bit more knowledge, and especially with the knowledge of the internet, where it's like, hey, you need to go to this guy because I think realistically in the States you've got 5 guys that have really, really great reputations for no. You take it here and it's fine. You can get a pretty solid 400 horsepower out of them with pretty good reliability. That's not that bad. So yeah, historically, yeah, they're not reliable. Really, they don't have to be unreliable. So there's that. And if you were going to get one and then do something to it, same as the VR4. I mean, you're buying a 90s car. The rubber has rotted out. You've got to replace some shit.
After 25 years, stuff goes wrong.
Yeah, it's time. So get in and replace some shit. You're buying in. For a 20, maybe 7, if you go really luxury on it, 2,800. If you go pretty light, 24. So let's go high end. 2,800 pound car with 400-ish, maybe more horsepower. That's gonna fly.
That's sufficient.
That's gonna fly.
It is.
That's a good buy.
I don't like the way they sound.
Especially if you go with more of an open exhaust and a larger single turbo, which is buying away.
Sequentials
again,
are not. Ooh.
Owing more to modern technology.
Yeah.
Singles for sure the way to go. I actually do. When you pipe that through the turbos, I think that a rotary piped through a big turbo, more open exhaust, honestly sounds better than a V8 piped through turbos.
But you do like that sound more than I do.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh yeah, because I'm not a muscle car sound guy, but I'm also not a really high pitched V8 sound guy either. I'm sort of,
and that's definitely the sound I go for.
Yeah, because even the S2000 is not a high pitched sound at redline. It's a growl more so.
I mean, it's a little bit more high. I think the reason that it sounds better than some of the other fart can 4-cylinders is because I think it does scream a little bit more at the high end.
It's.
So you're more musically inclined, so I'm going to have to defer to you on this.
All right,
but I still question you.
What do the waveforms look like, AJ?
Yeah, actually, that would be a great one. Is you know what you really took it down to the science? What
the waveforms of every engine are square. They're square wave because the intro and outro to this is an S2000 engine.
Is that similar to like the piston pulse, or is that a totally unrelated thing?
I don't. If I had to guess, and this is after mixing a lot of different beverages, if I had to take a wild guess, it's that when an engine makes a noise, there's not going to be an engine only works one certain way. It's not like a human vocal folds where if you hold there's no warbling of any kind. When the engine works and it's at its peak and you're giving it the beans, it gives you this amount of gas and it takes in this amount of air and it produces this sound. It gives you that sound. So I wonder if I can actually do this while we're recording.
Save your work first.
I did. But you know what? I'm going to hit it again. So let's go all the way back to the intro of this fucking thing. Now that I've hooked Emily's TV up to as my monitor, I can actually see what's going on here. Okay. All right. There's the because so the first part of this is the S2000. That's the noise from the S2000 engine, and I have it faded in.
I see what
so
you mean.
right there, that it's completely
So the intro to your podcast is recorded off the S2000.
not mine.
Okay.
But that square wave right there, because I have it faded in. The reason you see the triangles right there is the fade in, fade out that I did.
What would it take to do a alternate version where you had the Mustang? I mean, would you need one of those really fuzzy mics and all this other, completely random?
No, because basically what I did was just rip the sound file off of a YouTube video.
Oh, okay.
That's what I did.
If you wanted to
Thanks,
record,
Google.
if you wanted to record a good version of it, though, because it's at least my experience, most of the audio files you get on YouTube of cars are missing a lot of that.
They can be
highs and lows.
They can be,
There's
but
a
I
lot of
also
definition of sound.
EQ'd everything too to make it sound really good too.
Okay.
So you can't, with enough time, you can make anything sound like anything.
Right.
To get a good get a good exhaust file.
See most pop stars.
To get a good exhaust file of your Mustang, I would have to bring out my expensive microphone in the closet, and we would have to get creative with it.
Would it break? As well, no.
If it drops, it would, but it wouldn't break just from the sound.
Right.
It would if these are dynamic microphones, and that's a condenser microphone in there.
Okay.
And I'll let me go grab it real quick. Talk amongst yourselves.
What's happening, Steve? What's your Porsche experience been like with the valet?
Few and far between. Nowadays, mostly Cayennes and Panoramas.
Or Durasi. Ellen's wife.
There was an 87 911 there, and the guy had just been hitting the side. So he came in hot. It's it was mostly okay. It was just aft of the driver's door, but just crinkled right there in the side. He was not happy, but the car still drove okay. It's just I don't know how intense that hammering out would have been.
I think lightly touching back on that handling question. I one time drove it was a 997 GT3.
Okay. I had 997, but not a GT3. It was a more pedestrian model.
I couldn't even describe it other than that it was on a different level.
I really hate 4-hinge pedals, though.
See, I kind of like that.
It's just
I like it.
this
I
is
like
different.
the look. I don't think I'd like them in practice.
The execution makes my
know
ankles
that-
hurt thinking about it.
I know that practically they can actually eat up a lot of foot room, and if you're, say, of a taller disposition, that can make your position in the car uncomfortable. It can. I mean, if it's designed to fit somebody of,
because we're all about the
certain
same
build and all
height.
that.
So
and I know that
I'm
there's
6
been
foot
a
-2
couple of Japanese
and
like
77
supercars
kilograms.
where that's been the issue. Is that the floor mounted pedals are more designed for somebody mid 5-something foot. And if you put a 6'2" broadcaster in there, he then feels really uncomfortable.
okay, kind of.
So
Starion was like that. If I were any taller, it would be super uncomfortable because at the time, it's mid 80s designing. Most Japanese blokes weren't my height. I would be a very tall Japanese man.
yeah,
And what's funny too, the transmission, most of them were right-hand drive. They were made in Japan. So first gear was where third gear, it was middle, in the top.
Yeah.
So fifth gear was way over to the right. So that takes some getting used to. That's a condenser microphone.
Okay.
These
So, I mean, this one, this has like that sort of stereotypical microphone outrigger to it, but that's not actually relevant to the condenser. That's just how that one's set up.
This is called a condenser microphone. This is a dynamic. So these microphones have a flatter frequency response. Okay. They don't get as much low end or as much high end.
Does that have something to do with, I mean, these are like that more, what you see frequently, which is the very circular, kind of spherical head of a microphone, whereas that's a little bit more rectangular. Does that pickup have anything to do with it?
If you were to look inside, there would be a circle inside. These are more sensitive to very low and very high frequencies. But the downside is they are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Fragile. Whereas dynamic microphones, you could throw these off of a 5-story building onto the ground. They would still work.
Gotcha.
You would throw it down on the carpet and it might not sound right ever again.
Gotcha. What's called the orthodontia attached to it?
That's called a shock mount. And these are so sensitive too that it will pick up things from, if Emily were to like clap her hands really loud downstairs, this thing would pick that up. So the shock mount
helps isolate
the sound from the carpet, whereas so this is attached to the mic stand. It wouldn't, with the shock mount, it wouldn't pick up anything that us stomping down on the ground.
Okay. Gotcha.
This won't. These absolutely will. That's why it has that shock mount.
As much as she loves her creepy murder shows, I never once seen her clap at one.
I have a lot of microphones in here, so I've got this
and not
one,
a turntable.
These 3, and then I've got 2 Shure SM57 microphones that I use to mic that amplifier, because those things are seeing way higher decibels than these are, because that's what every producer ever uses to mic guitar cabinets with, or SM57s.
Right.
That's why I don't need another track day, because I have so much shit I do that I don't need any. Ask Steve. Like I sat down and do like.
I mean,
once
busy.
I start
There's
something,
no doubt. You're busy.
I have to. Well, once I start something, I have to do.
Has he told you about Gran Turismo 2?
Yeah, I saw it.
I was playing it when he came over.
If I can find the parts,
advocate.
I think my PS2 is going his way.
Nice.
Game.
If I
Pun intended.
I really do wish I made a lot more than I do, because
Those are Shure SM57s.
I see. So these are what you're showing us now are
Dynamic microphones.
very kind of diminutive
Yeah,
microphones.
These are the industry standard, because these
Really?
are the same kind of
Those
microphones. as
Shures.
Oh,
these.
okay.
Shures, yeah. But
Why
they
do
get closer,
they-
don't have
why-
the big? These are vocal mics. These are instrument mics, so they go.
I
Right,
see.
Right on the cabs.
No, honestly, if I had some cash, I would love to just take a good bunch of my buddies and get a dozen of us out at VIR for the weekend. I just think I'd be.
How long a trip is that? Like about 4 hours?
No.
Like that is north of Raleigh.
If you catch some traffic, 2.5.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, VR.
Where
VR
is
is
it?
like 2 hours. from
Driving sports cars to the sports car place. Got to drive them like
for
sports
anyone's
cars.
reference, that's Virginia International Raceway, which is actually in Alton, Virginia, just outside of Danville, Virginia.
Yeah, 2 hours 25 minutes.
Okay, so that's on the north side of Greensboro.
So I
I
mean,
could think that was off of like 85.
I was thinking it was up near past Raleigh, but no, it's actually past. Actually, it is past Raleigh, but where it is,
or
it's,
probably just north of
it's
Raleigh.
actually
2 hours 25.
it's actually west of Raleigh, but north, obviously.
Yeah,
being
okay.
that's in Virginia.
I kept thinking it was somewhere off 85. And
It-
that's
take-
bumstick nowhere.
take
before
85, get off
Petersburg.
on 29, and then take
All right.
29 to 58 in Danville.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is take Tryon Street until you hit 58.
Yuck.
But no, that would actually be an absolute dream for me. Is just get a good selection of our piles and just everybody pound around.
I'm gonna hurt Mark's feelings a little bit. Not really, but I'm thinking I'll hold on to the S2K till about 2022 when I can import a Nissan Silvia.
Yeah, I mean,
But it'd be right-hand drive.
Does it have happy eyes or sad eyes?
So the
Sad.
the S
good one.
the S15 Sylvia is the angry eyes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of see it. I'm not sure, especially with the drift community. kind of really loving those and kind of loving to update the front end of the S14 to the S15. So, for everybody not deep into that, that's
Fuck 'em.
a late 90s Nissan 240SX, and then you just kind of switch out the front headlights.
Yeah,
There's
unfortunately,
more
all the ones
involved
sold
in-
here had
in
truck
that, but,
motors.
essentially, you're switching out the front headlights.
It'd be a S15. I would want the S15 Sylvia.
I think, it's a really good looking car. The engine isn't bad in it. It's not a complete powerhouse, but it's a reasonably light car. They're reasonably small. I saw several of those when I was in Japan, and they're nice. It does not.
Skyline.
Yeah.
So here's my questions on that. It does not have the presence of the Viper.
I know.
It's a good looking car, but it does not have that presence.
Can you get it in copper?
It's also
Orange, not green.
it's definitely not going to be as fast. It's not. You
don't think so?
No,
Straight line or curves?
both.
Yes.
Because
Little bit of both.
you know how hard the Viper is to
So
drive.
it's also the original Viper versus some updates of that. The original Viper was kind of a pig. It went pretty well in like a race spec, but
I wonder what the original weight was. So if I do Viper, it's going to be like 95,
I think
96 when they.
Yeah, the first generation, I think that V10 was kind of heavy.
They're all heavy.
It's still not going to be that fast because it's the 4-cylinder turbo. So unless you
In the Sylvia?
yeah,
I thought the S15 was a 6.
I'm pretty sure that's the SR20 DET.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Now, you can choose to rebuild that top to bottom, go with a bigger turbo, really, get a standalone management for it. Maybe what? Not MoCal. Who's the other pretty big name these days? Infinity?
Yeah.
Shit. You can make some pretty great power on that if you wanted to pour a bunch into the engine, but at least the way it's going to roll off of the ship, it's not going to be that fast. It's a good car. It really is. It's a very good car.
The
But
Viper 33?
33 in 95 was pretty heavy. Today, that's
now it's pretty
relatively light.
Yeah.
But, at the time. Because, by the time I'm done with my Mustang, I'll probably be a little shy of probably 36. Maybe close to 35.
That's with 4 seats.
It's kind of. I'm kind of going to end up taking out the rear seats for a roll
You
bar.
don't need them anyway. Nobody rides in the back of that fucking
Nobody
thing.
ever rides in the back of that. And I when I go with race seats, I'm going to need harnesses.
It's been a long time since Atlanta that I had that many people in my car.
Yeah.
Sylvia
was a fun
S15,
trip.
99. Never mind. I'll have to wait till 2024.
Yeah.
Fuck. 247 horsepower
Yeah.
and 203 pound-feet of torque.
And the thing is,
SR20.
that horsepower figure might be a little bit off, but it's not off by 100. Realistically, that's probably closer to, if you really
So
threw
cool,
it down,
but-
it's probably closer to just a hair under 300 before you start playing with it. I'm sure that, there's some relatively easy mods in terms of a tune and a boost controller that'll get that up. But, you're not going to be north of 350
True,
with minor
but
modifications.
it's the difference. Like,
And what's the? Does it say what the wet weight of that car is?
I didn't pull that up, and I'm already back to Vipers again because I was looking at.
I'm gonna now. I know that the S15 is actually a little bit smaller than the S14, and it was kind of designed a little bit more to be a little bit more of a honed car than that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's still going to be under 32, or it's at least going to be close to 32. If it's under 3,000, I'm going to be shocked. 300 horsepower is pretty good at that, but it's not. You're not going to be blowing everybody's doors off.
No, I wouldn't do that with the
It's
NSX
sort of
either,
now-
though. But that has presence also.
Even with the Viper, because of its weight and its age and everything, you're not going to be exactly blowing doors off. But that V10 sounds amazing, and it sounds a little imposing.
It looks like that's
Yeah, and that's a lot of what you're buying with that. That car is really all about everything that it looks like it is, not necessarily what it does.
it is ostentatious and vulgar, and I love it.
Yes. Yeah. So here's the other thing. The S15. It kind of has some drift tax attached to it.
It does.
And it is a nice car.
Mm-hmm.
how cheap do you suspect this is going to be?
A good example that's not riced out.
So
not
based on my, and I mean this is a very limited experience because I was only in Japan for a couple of months, but I saw a few that were a little bit torn up.
Mm-hmm.
For a good example, I think you're going to pay more for the S15 than you would for the Viper.
Probably.
By the time you're done with taxes and fees, I bet.
Have you seen what the cost of a brand new hood is on a Viper if you wreck it?
I'm sure
It's like $17,000.
Half the car.
But are there
What you do is buy a second one.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, all things considered, though, can you really not find a junkyard somewhere where somebody backed one into a tree and so the hood's okay?
Probably.
Okay.
It's rare, but it ain't that rare.
A lot of the S2000 guys have gone to Vipers. Some have gone to Corvettes, but everybody who's gone to a Viper has said, if you've driven an S2000, driving a Viper is like driving a bigger, more powerful, more raw S2000 because it's the same dimensions. It's a very short deck, long hood, and it's exactly the same. I mean, the torque and versus the high revving horsepower, that's different, but the driving feel is extremely similar.
So for sure, for me at least, and I mean, I think it definitely comes down person to person. I am all about, and probably my early, Saturn, 4-cylinder beginnings kind of maybe set me up for this. I am all about a very high revving engine. So I mean, my Mustang, for instance, came at 6,700. If I'm at the track, I push that to 7,600.
Mm-hmm.
When the engine does eventually let go.
I like you say you don't say if.
No, I mean I'm running it, so I take very good care of it. I've done a lot of oil analysis to kind of keep track of it. It would appear that at 8,500,000 miles, the engine is in immaculate condition, but it's eventually going to let go. I'm using it about next year should be about half track use, half road use. So the engine's going to go eventually.
I want to be there when it does.
You'll have to start coming to the track.
just because take the GoPro with you, man.
No question about it. When it lets go, it's probably going to be at 7,000 RPMs. But yeah, I mean, I would love to replace it with a 5.2. Probably have MMR. There's a company called I think it's Modular Motorsport Racing, MMR, and they do phenomenal Ford Coyote work. And yeah, I mean, I could do a 9,000 RPM 5.2 in the neighborhood of 550, depending on how you want to do the tune. It'd be fun.
That's got to sound like an absolute maniac.
Yeah, it's
by the way,
great. It's gonna be great.
Is it flat plane?
No, so that would actually not be flat plane.
Okay.
So Ford will not sell the flat plane crank outside of a GT350 factory car. Under very limited circumstances, if you provide a ton of documentation,
Money.
No, I mean, they really want like a dealer to explain what happened. If you blow the engine up in your voodooed engine GT350, they will supply you with a replacement flat plane crank, but that's pretty much the only way to get one. They have those on lock and key, and they don't want people to use them. But there are very similar 5.2 liter Coyote engines that are still making a crap ton of power. And if you put a lightweight flywheel on it and everything else, I mean, it's not going to rev as fast. It's going to rev close. And for a track toy, that's fun.
Those are this is a great color, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. With the wheels.
Yeah, that's sort of a like a sterling gray or some sort of midnight gray.
What was it called?
Something along those lines.
Dark gray.
Yeah, it's great.
What's the official color name?
I'm a little bit worried that sort of gray color is kind of the new murdered out, but it really looks good on so many cars.
You want to tell everybody? You want to tell all the listeners what color your Mustang is?
It is gray. And I mean, I'll say it's maybe getting a little bit too played out, but it does look really good on a lot of cars.
It does. It does. I don't love the blue with white stripes.
So I actually really love the if Ford did this, I think on one or two of their like samples, and I think it was blue but with a gray stripe.
I'd have to see it.
Pretty good looking.
I'd
So
have to, like,
for some promo stuff, Ford actually did a little bit of it was a blue where it was actually 5 different layers of various blues, and then combined that was this one stunning color.
Don't ever have
But
an
they-
accident, I guess.
Well,
right?
they flatly refused to sell it to anybody. It was promo only.
Of course.
Yeah,
What do you think about a yellow Viper GTS
I mean, it would still have a lot of presence.
with black stripes?
I don't like yellow, but I
mean,
get
That
it.
certainly qualifies as bright and loud.
So I actually saw a red one of those just the other day, and I couldn't tell you if it was the first gen or that like whatever 2000 or like 96 version.
Yeah.
But I mean, immediately picked
McDonald's.
it up. I can't
Red
do
with
the-
yellow wheels.
I can't do the McDonald's.
I don't know why they did that.
I mean,
Da-da-da-da-da.
McDonald's
I'm
could
not
have been a
loving it.
sponsor.
They might have been.
I mean, those nuggets are somewhat undeniable.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Freebasing.
Yeah, thanks, Mo Rocca. I've been freebasing nuggets since '83. That's still my go-to. I was like, oh, hi, I'm ancient, and I still get my nuggets meal.
Nothing wrong with that.
That
I
when
would
I-
still.
It was bizarre mode of passage when I could eat a 20-piece all on my own.
You can still get one for $5. That's a good
Fuck
deal.
yeah.
I mean, it's going to kill you, but it's still a good deal.
Word on the rumor mill is that Mint Hill is getting a Chick-fil-A.
Let's go on
Isn't there a
Sunday.
Chick-fil-A just up the road?
Something like that.
Yeah, there's one on Albemarle Road and one on Independence.
I
but
still
they're-
love
They're
Chick-fil-A.
both.
I
20
know
minutes.
they're not PC at the moment, but
Check
those
it out.
waffle
It did,
fries,
it did
man.
the same thing at the 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
It saves all of this, all we did, but then it starts over another. So
Form.
I see.
yeah,
I see.
we got worried the first time that happened, but we don't worry about that anymore. It saves everything. You just have to trust the system, man. I don't like the second gen Vipers.
Is that the one that was featured
03
in
to-
Fast and the Furious 3?
03 to I didn't see the third one.
Oh man, you got to see the third one.
I don't think I will.
Awesome full.
Tokyo
Drift.
Yes, Tokyo Drift.
I want a first gen Viper or a last gen Viper. I don't want the middle.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep.
I did see one of the latest Gen Vipers at the Cars and Coffee this last weekend, and yeah, they're just impressive cars. I mean, it's a lot of carbon fiber construction. They really threw a lot of very, very modern techniques at some ancient redneck design, and it kind of works in a glorious
Eight's good,
way.
10's better, man.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You found your car?
Uh-huh.
What are we doing here?
An SRT Ram.
No, that's horrible.
I mean, that would be a cool thing to haul your Viper to track days with.
I'm waiting here. Let's see this. Yeah. Oh, so we're looking at a 95
97.
RT. So it's the convertible topped, but with brand new wheels in a dark gray metallic finish, red brake calipers on a yellow body. I mean, that's ostentatious
hot.
for days.
That's hot.
but that looks great.
That looks hot. Wow, that looks good. Holy.
Yeah, you can't.
And
deny
no
that.
fucking way that guy that owns that is in the UK.
Nice.
That's even better.
That's. I mean that is forcing Americana down people's throats.
That's like, yeah.
pretty funny.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, what it comes down to me is, and I mean, I feel like I'm honestly kind of looking out for you on this one, is that I just don't see anything else within 10 grand that would make you nearly as happy.
I don't think so either.
And I think anything that would make you close to as happy is, I mean, not 10 grand away, man. I mean, I'm talking, not a lot of money, a ton of money, $20,000, $30,000 away.
Camry engine swapped Esprit.
I mean,
Avora on a budget.
Yeah.
If
Nailed
if-
it.
If the ebook thing and everything, all that starts taking off, first of all, let's plan some track days. Take your boy, but yeah, I think for realistic money that we have to spend on this stuff, I can't see anything coming close to the Viper.
Those are such cool cars.
They're great. Yeah.
Supercharged. 937 horsepower. Get the fuck out of here with that.
So another thing that you could do,
It's a Viper Cat.
and if I had a colossal, say, internet following, which I don't have internet following because I don't really play around that much on the internet.
And it's the color I would want.
What is this?
Hot pink.
White. I don't know that I'd do that.
I like white cars.
Yeah.
That is about as subdued as a Viper can get.
White's really hard to wax, though.
It also always looks clean.
Does it? Because it didn't get to pick up
compared
dust
to
really
black.
fast. Really?
Compared to black. Black always looks dirty.
What if you ceramic coat the black?
You're still going to get the ceramic coat. There's your black.
Yeah. But honestly, for the Viper, and I don't own a red car. I never have.
Never. I haven't either.
I would maybe.
You have.
I would consider it in a truck, perhaps.
Had
The
two
Viper
trucks and a
looks-
Volvo.
The Viper looks really good in red. It's a car that wears it well.
You know what? Here's a first gen RT10 with the second gen wheels, and that looks really good.
Yeah. And not as good as those modern wheels. The
True,
third gen wheels
true,
are
true. But
amazing.
I wonder what the offset on those happens to be.
So-
It's got to be hard to find.
What you really need on those are, I believe is it Forge Line? I think it's Forge Line
or center line forged.
No, the company Forge Line makes a wheel that I believe is called a GSR 1 or maybe GS1R. These are some of the best, lightest weight aluminum alloy, like single piece wheels you can get. Really popular for people who have bank accounts in amateur racing.
I mean,
And they look great.
are we doing good bank accounts or mediocre bank accounts?
Bank accounts way over what mine's reading.
All right. Well, I'm not sure why you're mentioning this to me.
I mean, so yeah, you're around. I mean, give or take a little bit, $4,500 a wheel.
A wheel?
A wheel.
All right, no. Why would you even bring
Gold's
this up?
not even a good alloy to put into your wheels. It's heavy.
Why are we offering me caviar when I'm going to eat Cheerios?
Super lightweight. And they
Salmon
would look-
roe.
That's a good looking GTS though,
That's what I'm talking about.
in red with black wheels.
A red Viper it has, and I mean, again, you're talking about a car that's under 30, probably under 30 grand, maybe a little bit more, but not by much. I mean, by the time you're done with some of the options, your base level, Accord, your base level Beamer. I mean, there's nothing that isn't into the 40s now.
Nope, that's
I
true.
mean, you can't option any Mustang you would want for under 38.5. I mean, all the ones that you really want are 50. Everything's way over that.
GT3
It's
350
blowing
start
through that
at
price range.
65.
yeah.
I think it starts at 65, but I think today
Bring me the one with crank windows.
some of the dealers have started backing down the markup to, I mean, only a couple $100, so you can get them under 70. But I mean, for a long time they were wanting and holding to a $10,000 markup. I mean, so a $70,000 Mustang,
Yeah,
you've
this
got
is
to
new
be
Type R.
kidding. I mean, I like my Mustang, but my Mustang's less than half that price when I bought it brand new.
That goes back to the miles per gallon thing too. Is like with the Hellcat. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it, but
Yeah.
for your average Joe like us, even if we had the money, if you went out and just like, hey, I need, or people underestimate how fast a 400 wheel horsepower car is on the street.
So, and I think you were actually kind of, if we can back this way up to much closer to the beginning of the podcast, you were kind of mentioning this in terms of the horsepower wars. Like, where's kind of the line going to be? Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit fearful that the line is going to be regulation in the terms that I mean, already now that we're kind of regularly cresting over that 500 horsepower mark, tires are having a pretty hard time coping with it. I mean, traction control on most of these cars is banging in really aggressively and a lot.
What's traction control?
Yeah. Well,
A way to make a Jaguar feels like it just turned off.
that's like a whole different thing that you can actually get into in the Mustang. Because some of the track guys, it's not so much traction control, but stability control. They're actually finding there's an increasing amount of evidence that suggests that under track conditions, the stability control can cause you to have an accident. Because it's just a little bit too dim-witted. Like it's basically great if you're leaving the ball, and it's pretty bad if you're transitioning corners at the track. But that's a much nerdier like side thing. But no, I mean, a lot of these cars, they're just not able to keep up with it. And I'm very curious to see what this will mean for Tesla, because I mean, Tesla's all the power you'd ever want. That's great. When you buy very expensive tires and they're brand new, when you start having owners that want the cheaper versions of tires because they roll up and it's, well, it needs new tires. How much is that? Over $1,000? Are you kidding? No. What can I get for $400?
Get me my Westlakes.
You know, and then you have, you know, Huaishan Huan, you know, radial sixes. All of a sudden, those cars are going to be a lot less controllable. And it will be interesting how people's opinions on those cars change as the second-hand market, you know, claims ownership of them.
I'll never buy anything other than Michelin's. When I had my accident in the S2K, it was with Fusion tires.
Yeah.
And they were fairly hard, and they would break loose. The Michelin's will not.
So I showed you. It's yeah. I'm a giant fan of, and you know, anybody that's listening, if you haven't tried the Michelin Pilot Super Sports or their current replacement, which is the Sport S4s or 4Ss, sorry.
Okay.
Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. They're fantastic. You can find tires that are slightly better in one category or another. Generally, those categories are lifetime in terms of how long the tires last, dry traction, and wet traction. You might be able to find a tire that's better in one of those. Certainly, if you're going for a tire that's much cheaper, you can find a tire that's much cheaper and is better in one of those. Nothing can come close in all those categories for anything close to that price. It's just not possible. They're amazing tires.
I have the Super Sports on the S2000.
Yeah.
And I have the Defenders on the Jeep. And they're great tires.
Right.
They've been in snow, they've been in rain a lot, but they've been great in the snow, great in the rain, great in the dry, great in the cold, just great, absolutely great tires. If you can afford the Michelins, always get the Michelins.
So the new tire, and I think I sent you a picture of this tire. Steve, I'm not
the
sure.
tread pattern?
I'm not sure if I shared it with you. Did I send you a picture of tires like a couple weeks ago?
Don't think so.
So this is my recent acquisition for the Mustang. Is so downgrading from 19-inch wheels to 18, but upgrading from a 255 wide tire to a 285 wide tire.
Is that an upgrade, though?
Yes.
In the twisties, it is. In the straight line, it isn't.
It would be in both, but definitely in the twisties.
I got into this argument one time online with people.
So
Contact patch.
The new, so yeah, but these are the Hankook. Was it 4S?
The compound matters more than the width. Now, I was trying to explain this to a couple of friends of mine.
So this is a softer compound, and the tread design gives you much more rubber on the road.
Absolutely.
During the contact patch. So
But
it's wider, softer, and more touch, more contact.
That middle rib is rad.
The people who are doing straight line, who think it's a wider tire is better for straight line grip, it's not true.
Well, that's why the drag
it's
radials
the contact patch has
giant
changed.
contact patch.
Absolutely. I love this.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you gotta watch it
Physics and
because
material science.
like I sort of try to, because I check this with my wife, who's amazing for listening to me talk about cars a lot of the time, because going into it, it's like, this is a really boring subject, and I'm going to try to cut back how boring I get on the subject, so you don't die.
Yes.
And my wife is phenomenal about listening to me drone on about some of this stuff, but you know, I mean, in terms of that stability control, like actually crashing cars at the track sometimes, you know, the dynamics of how that happens starts getting so deep that, you know, people who are not deep car borers can't listen to it.
Of course not. No.
But the funny thing that I find is, and I mean, you guys might find this as well, is the kind of tiers that you get. It's almost 3-tiered. I think I'm finding where it's you have people who don't really know anything about cars. You get in them, you go to work, you hit Starbucks. That's it. That's the car gets you from work to Starbucks to home.
It's an appliance.
Sure. Mm-hmm. People that us, there's kind of a large gray area where people like us know a good bit about cars, but there's a lot of subjects that we don't really know that much about. You know, you have a good bit of experience. You know, you've driven a lot of stuff. You know, you've wrenched on many things and known to do a lot of different cars, this, that, and the other. And then there's that next level where it's like, you know, people that not only understand exactly what roll center is, but have hardline opinions on how you best calibrate that. I sort of know what roll center is. I have no idea how to actually, change that in my car.
Do you want to put ham or butter in it, or both?
It would be like it'd be like Mark talking about track day experiences to us, Steve talking about computers to me and you, and me talking about music to you.
Yeah, that's if you started really diving deep onto like what you need to do to get the best out of a Raspberry Pi build. I mean, I'd love to listen to it, but I have no idea what you're talking about.
I need to get some research and get back to you to bore you to death with that one.
Right.
Or if I would be like, hey, this amp I have is really mid-heavy.
Get a 3V plus, folks.
So engaging the EQ, where it's a slightly scooped tone, gives you a better balance of your mids, highs, and lows. But when you crank it, you want to crank your everybody's an expert in different things, and this is yet another reason I don't need to go. I don't halfway do things. If I go track days, I'm going to do it all the fucking way, and I don't have the time to do it.
I think that's somewhat reasonable. I mean, I feel that really strongly that I want to dive in very, very deeply, and I mean, just, I don't make that much money.
More than us.
Maybe. It goes fast, but I mean, track days do definitely eat it up. I mean, you can do. I mean, the range is somewhat real. I mean, if in terms of attending a track day. So I mean, let's break that down a little bit. Just if there's anybody interested now, it's just over the 2-hour mark.
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. If anybody is possibly listening this long and has a vague interest in possibly attending a track day, we'll break this down a little bit. If you're remotely interested. But I mean, you can kind of do a track day for as little as about $125 for like a day, to something like a weekend with the Porsche Club is probably going to be let's say it like an elite track. So I think one of the most expensive in the country right now is the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. Frequently referred to as CODA. So let's say if you were trying to go with the Porsche Club of America to a weekend at CODA, that's probably going to be about $1,400 entrance fee. Now, in addition to that, you of course have hotel, food, gas. You're going to use a bunch of that, and then after the fact, how much damage you've done to tires, brakes, everything else. I mean, realistically, even $125 a day is probably closing in more on like $350 in terms of what you really used up and all that. Your average weekend is about $500. By the time you count, hotel, food, and gas for your weekend, maybe a little bit closer to $1,000. And then if you're rolling with the Porsche Club, I mean, it's $3,000 or $4,000. I'm not rolling with the Porsche Club. Let's be clear.
And this is why every time Mark has tried to talk me into things, would I rather go play music for 3 days and make $600?
Yeah.
Or go spend $600 and maybe break my car?
You're not wrong.
Mark's just a bad influence.
But if I may, it's a lot of fun.
So is having a threesome with 2 high-quality hookers.
That would also be a lot of fun.
And expensive.
But So honestly, I think there actually is a certain level in terms of like what you're interested in and what how you perceive different levels of pleasure. I personally find it a high like no other.
Okay.
I mean it's worth a lot. I have not done a lot of drugs. I actually
We can change that.
I could. So I mean, historically on that, I've given weed a good handful of tries.
Yeah.
And I've kind of always, scholastically at least, studied with a good bit of ADD, dating back through some learning disabilities in like kindergarten, this, that, and the other. I find that weed does not play nice with my ADD, and my mind is firing when I'm high at just this insane rate, and I find it very uncomfortable because I can't. I'm not paranoid, but I can't relax.
Yeah, I've heard that before because I did edibles for the first time in the mountains allegedly, and all it did was put me to sleep. That's it. But I had 7 drinks by then.
That would okay.
So, but then the next night I had another.
Cross are created equal.
I had another couple edibles, and then all it did was put me to sleep. So I think it just puts me to sleep.
I think asleep would be fine. My problem is I'm firing,
but I didn't want to sleep.
Just this 1,000,000-mile-an-hour, mental rate, and it's very image driven.
Yeah,
and I mean you can't relax. You can't like take a deep breath and just calm down and sort of adjust to the pace to where it's enjoyable or not really because I mean it's at this manic pace that you just can't relax into.
I will say those PAX pens that somebody we know may or may not have helps my blood pressure better and my anxiety better than any of my medications I've ever taken do. So I might start investigating in that.
I am not entirely opposed to listening to say an informed opinion on some other stuff. Well, I should sort of try, but I'm a little bit apprehensive of it just because I mean I've dipped my toe into it very lightly, and I have found that my experience is not necessarily typical and is directly not that enjoyable. And I mean based on that, I've looked elsewhere. As it happens for me, a very high concentration load, large adrenaline dose adventure is really calming. And I feel amazing following it. So I mean, that's then what I pay to do for a whole weekend, and I feel great.
We're rolling in at 2 hours and 40 minutes or so. Y'all want to call this one quits for the day?
Do you want to call this one quits, or do you want to attempt this sour really quick?
For the next 20 minutes. We do still have some more beer in the cooler.
I'll tell you what. You guys break that out, and if you pour it for me, I'm game. But I've got to pay my water bill pretty quickly.
You pay that water bill.
Yes.
Do it electronically if you can.
All right.
And should we try this sour beer?
Okay, I was gonna go with a double back, but sure.
Do it, whatever.
What happened to that bottle opener that we had here?
That awful thing is somewhere on.
I don't even see it. I bet he's got it.
I got it.
Yeah.
All I can say is good luck. Please do not cut your finger open. I do not recommend that.
If I ever get the Mustang, well, not ever, I will have the Mustang back in shape.
When?
So it's the end of the summer. I mean,
It's more realistic than Colin's 450,000 mile Mustang that's been sitting for 5 years now.
What essentially happened is I bought the base Mustang, but with the upgraded brakes because at the time I couldn't afford the Boss 302. And there's a lot of very small differences that kind of ultimately add up to it being a lot better. A lot of the bushings are different. They don't wear out as fast. And yeah, springs and shocks, and then a lot of little stuff in between. I've just kind of worn it out in the Mustang doing the track shit. And so it's fine to go up and down the highway. It passes inspection all day. But if you are really going to dog it at the track, there's like a safety margin that just has kind of been eroded. And I can't take it to the track currently. But I have boxes of parts at the house for a rebuild here in a couple of months. What I've considered doing is giving it kind of a shakedown because I mean the car will definitely behave a little bit differently once it's rebuilt. And so I've considered doing like just
kind of a
local,
before and after drive.
a little bit, yeah, just to kind of reassociate myself with what the car is going to want to do under these new settings, at the kind of the edge of traction. So, I mean, if you were interested, I mean, we could try to coordinate and have you come and also try it out on an autocross, and throw two people at it and see how it did. See what your opinion was on it, and also, I mean, what your opinion was of an autocross sport.
That's always been something that's been fascinating. I've never tinkered with it.
It's a lot of fun. I get why people hate on it, because some people will hate on autocross because you're standing in a parking lot all day, and realistically, you have a couple of minutes, single-digit minutes, of actual driving. So, and I mean, it is like $50. $50 isn't a lot, but your price per minute of driving ends up somewhat high. And I mean, that's kind of one of those things where like you start evaluating, really what is the value. For the track days, they're kind of expensive. Actually, they're not kind of expensive. They're very expensive. But your cost per minute, because over the course of, if you do a 3-day weekend, I mean, you're talking 12 hours of driving maybe. Your cost per minute is actually pretty low. So you're just loving life for $3 a minute or less. Actually, a lot less.
9100 mix a lot today.
Well, yeah, actually, no, wait. You're loving life for less than $1 a minute.
Oh, fuck. That's not good.
So what we have here is, for everybody, anybody who's still possibly listening through all this car garble, we have
Garble?
It's a sour blend from Westbrook Brewing. A shout out to Charleston, South Carolina. This is a beer that's blended of 33% dry sherry cask, mature mixed fermentation saison, 67% oak. Aged sour. And then all that has been reblended and re-fermented with black raspberries for 3 months in Marsala punchons.
Kind of tastes like what I imagine it tasted like on September 11th. Right when that second tower came down.
Dusty.
That's exactly
Wait. What's your perspective?
I'm in the building.
Oh, yeah, that would have sucked.
I'm going to drink it. It was free. And it was brought very lovingly by my guest. But I'm not
honestly, if you don't want it, I'm down.
You be down.
It tastes like an incredibly dry red.
I'm about the sours.
Oh.
I don't hate this as much as most sours. I can't say I exactly like it, but it's certainly less bad than most of its peers.
So if you guys ever end up down for a second really boring car-related podcast...
What?
We're always down for that.
I'd be happy to bring a few reds, and we could explore kind of a spectrum from... I mean, I know that some of your complaints in terms of red wine have been, a little bit too dry. We can fix that.
Well, I was fully expecting you to bring wine. And I told Steve
I figured I would go a little bit more contemporary, here at the beginning.
I'm going to buy all of the $5 reds I can find at Aldi and Lidl.
$5 red longs.
Drink fresh.
So, it'd be perhaps fun to, I could bring in some stemware. We could maybe go with, I don't know.
I do have some wine glasses.
3 or 4 different bottles and kind of go through, start with something that was, definitely not dry, probably a little bit sweeter.
Moscato.
Probably not.
Do you want grape juice or do you want wine?
I'm not a big Moscato fan.
I do like Moscato.
There's interestingly, especially if you go Canadian, there's some of the ice wines. They're definitely kind of sweet, but they do actually have a tartness to them.
German ones.
Some of your iced harvests that are based on like Riesling are pretty interesting.
Yeah, Riesling's candy, by the way.
I like Riesling and
Mostly,
I like dessert wine. I like sweet wine. I just can't do the. I can't do the.
Let's do an all Manischewitz tasting.
No.
Only half of it, because Emily's half Jewish.
Is she?
Yeah,
'Cause she's what?
Chinese and Jewish.
Is it? I thought she was Polish.
No, her dad is Polish Russian, but they are Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, wait, but if it's her dad, though, is she actually? How does that work? If,
Non-observant.
I thought.
He's converted to Christianity.
Okay, so I thought
They're not practical.
I thought it
He had
passed along the mother's bloodline.
He had a brisk and a bar mitzvah, but he's Christian. And
I mean, forgive my ignorance on it, but
and me too. I'm not paying attention to that shit.
I was under the impression that it passed along the mother's bloodline.
Well, Jewish is
You
one
are
of those.
correct.
Well, yeah, Jewish is one of those that can be described as an ethnicity or sort of a pseudo race too.
It is a bit of the both. Yeah.
It can be. It's not like any other religion or ethnicity. It's kind of strange like that. He is not practicing. He is very much a practicing. He's not even a practicing Christian. They all identify as Christian, but I don't think any of them go to church. And Emily and I certainly don't. So
I'm not the best at it. I kind of wish I was a little bit better, but
well, play for the winning team.
I found that REM
Team
song
CBG.
really easy to live.
I'm just not going to be a dick, and then whatever happens, happens. I don't give a
I mean,
fuck
I think
after
that's
that.
kind of a good rule of thumb for anybody, though.
I just
I mean,
try to be.
regardless of your walk of life.
It should
Try
be. No,
Not
it
to
should be.
so much of a dick.
It should be, but it is not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a bit over inflated how much your average person is a dick every day. But
Steve, I need a booze. Hand me the Scotch ale from the one I brought from. Yeah, the can. It was from what I bought. Yeah, Skull Camp.
Camp Skull.
Yes, it was from my Uber trip that I did for myself. That I'm very glad I did, but I'm sad I have to go back to work tomorrow.
I feel you, man.
Yeah, but I've been off for a week, so
I have not.
I am drinking a Skull Camp Brewing Beam Me Up Scottish Ale, 4.5%. It's a very low graphs Scottish ale. So
Tomorrow is my first double job day in 3 weeks. That's gonna hurt.
Damn. What's that gonna?
That's not really-
realistically translate to in terms of work hours.
that's not that good.
8 here, 4 there.
Oh yeah, 12
Yeah,
hour
all
days
in
are
the
rough.
span of about 16 or 18 hours.
What do you think your worst week has been in terms of work hours?
About 70.
Yeah, I think
About if I did north of 50 at print shop and 3 valet shifts, I feel like I'm going to take pliers to my teeth.
my absolute worst week at my former employer, my current position at Dewberry Engineers, where anyone should go for all of their civil engineering or structural
Do they IT
or
people?
wastewater improvement needs.
Yeah, he needs an IT job.
But, unfortunately, no, not in our office. We don't, because most of that's farmed out to the headquarters.
Does
but
headquarters need people? Where's headquarters?
Fairfax.
That.
Ugh.
I don't want to go to DC,
I don't blame you.
especially not now.
But no, my former employer, I think I had 1 week that topped out at 83. Yeah. That was, I mean, you've got to, out of college, trying to establish a career. I mean, everybody's got to put it in at some point, and it's never fun, but I don't recommend it. For sure. Yeah. But at least, I mean, to its credit, that was at one office. When you do 3 meals, you can do them all under one roof. That's okay. And free coffee. So, it could have been a lot worse.
Steve
It could have
desperately
been
needs.
decaf.
What's
Yeah,
that?
so
Free
I-
coffee, but it could be decaf.
Decaf is like dry humping.
So kind of correct me if I thought you had a new gig that was on the horizon.
Tentative thing, and they decided to look elsewhere.
Oh, you're kidding, man.
You're looking at the new thing, but we're just waiting for it to pay us.
So in the interim for this new thing that's going to pay you all handsomely, for which you will always, of course, remember the small people and host some track days. So I mean, some sort of IT related thing. I mean, I guess
Desktop support, system builder, pretty basic thing. Like
Steve
might
built-
imagine pretty simple. All at once, and I consider 50% better hours.
Steve's good at this. He built this computer
Yeah.
that I've been using to record with, and I mean,
It looks like the box that came in, and you wouldn't believe that this is made of 12-year-old parts. Can you hear it? No. Neat.
I mean, presumably, some of the stuff like Indeed, you're kind of farming those kind of regularly.
I'm getting email suggestions from lots of places, and I
Right.
keep getting emails that either they're not interested or the position's closed. Damn.
I wish I could better
I
help.
gotta say I've got a terribly good mental state about this right now, actually.
I mean, that's
It hurts.
if you end up facing a decent amount of rejection's a bitch, man. I mean,
Because, like, I'm engaged for almost 6 months now. I have no idea what and when we're doing.
that's for the best.
you
You could be like other people we know who get engaged and married within a 6-month span.
okay. Do I know who we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Off mic.
Yeah, I might need a name on this, but oh sure. So, for all of its credit, I think I'm probably correct in raising an eyebrow on several things surrounding that. Not necessarily the time frame.
Are you a mind reader?
They're rarely.
No. It's like, are you bulimic? You can read minds.
I'm pretty sure every relationship I've had would go to account for the fact that I'm not a mind reader, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. He was reading both of our minds, and the right eye was going this way, the left eye was going this way.
But I don't know. It depends on what you want to do, of course. I mean, really, what you and your partner ultimately want to do in terms of a celebration, of your marriage is I think really key. I was shocked in terms of our wedding, how much the wedding industry really is an industry. Mm-hmm. And I know everybody calls it the wedding industry.
industrial
I
complex.
certainly knew that going into it. I honestly think you just nailed it. I think that the wedding industrial complex is a much more accurate
Thanks,
description
Eisenhower's ghost.
of what's
Yes.
going on. I actually laughed in the face of was it? I think it was our cake lady. I think it was the cake lady, where so every single, contractor, whether it's the music person, the individual who represented the venue, your catering contact, the cake person, flower lady, all of these individual components, every single one of them said a version of, and I quote, "The thing everyone remembers in a wedding
Yeah.
is this thing that I make all of my money from."
Yep.
know what I remember? It being at Daniel Stowe, and that was a really cool spot.
You know what I remember?
I have a
Not
vague
being there.
recollection.
You
of,
weren't there.
I had a show that night, and I tried to coordinate it. Two opposite sides of the metro area.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it happen.
But it was one of those things where I was like, no, I think people vaguely remember where. They might remember what the bride and groom are wearing, perhaps.
Not the group.
Clothes.
Yeah, realistically, not the groom.
It wasn't about us.
Tuxes look different, but realistically, every tux looks the same.
It wasn't
Nobody gives
about
a
us.
shit what the dude's wearing. Let's
Exactly.
be honest.
Show up, say I do.
I do imagine
he did.
when it's two dudes, that still crosses over. Nobody remembers shit.
No, there's no dress. But if one's wearing a dress, I want to go to that fucking wedding.
Honestly, even the dress. I mean, how long was
No.
was the trail absurdly long?
Did they have fun?
Then maybe people remember.
Did they have
But
fun?
yeah.
That's what they remember.
Did they have fun? Did they really get shit faced and somebody make a fool of themselves?
Yes.
People remember that. Mm-hmm. Everything else, not so much.
No.
And it was one of those things. When the venue said it, I was like, I think that's kind of crap, but. This is a gorgeous venue, and we got married actually on Friday the 13th, so we got a steal on this place. I mean, it wasn't free by any means, but it was fucking close. And
We've been playing with that idea of leap year.
yeah, it's that sort of deal. But yeah,
Anniversary gifts every 4 years. That's perfect.
So there is a
We've already done well. So apparently, March 1st is going to be a bit more special than too.
for your information and possible use. There is a Laotian family here in Charlotte. They actually set up a little tent downtown and sell flowers every week.
Nice.
They do phenomenal bouquets and arrangements for nothing.
Are they in cahoots with the folks behind Tamarind? Because we're a big fan of that restaurant.
Not sure about that, but no. I mean, I know.
They're Laotian.
Seriously, they were a third the price of the closest bid. I mean, they were way cheaper than our highest bid. They were a third the price of the closest bid. And I mean, you probably remember. You don't, but I mean, the flowers and everything that we had there were enormous. I mean, it was crazy stuff. But yeah, I mean,
that was definitely a bright spot during me going through a really dark time.
Just definitely consider what you two want, and really in the context of what you're trying to do, because I was very much taken aback by how much the wedding industrial complex is a wedding industrial complex. And I mean, it's fun, it's a great time to, celebrate. Our wedding was amazing. I loved it. But I'm shocked at what the minimum price for a pretty stunning wedding these days is. And, you see this random social media bullshit of, I mean, you can spend millions quick. It's insane to me how quick it's almost impossible to spend less than 10,000.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a celebration for sure to celebrate.
But it's a celebration of you two, and you two need to be happy with it in the end.
I mean, it's what you guys want to celebrate, to what extent you guys want to celebrate. And I mean, we didn't do this, but I've heard of several people recommend it. Throw it all, do get the parents together, and that's it. So it's, whatever, 6 of you. And then throw the rest of the honeymoon. Just ball out.
Or throw a party and then go on a honeymoon.
I've heard of both of those recommendations, and I'm not sure that either one is a bad recommendation.
No, it's not.
There's definitely no way I could best my sister's wedding. That was a colossal party back in late August of 15.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that when the cake lady told us that the thing that everyone remembers from a wedding is what the cake looked like, and that's why you should go with the triple big version at it was almost $4,000 for the cake she was recommending, which we did not.
Is it
go
made
with.
of dodo egg?
Yeah,
damn.
Not even close. I told that lady directly. I was
This
like,
one was made with unicorn tears.
Like, but I mean, this is what these people recommend. I mean, they
well, there's a limit to that, because
when
I'm trying to get booked for a new venue, like I play myself up, but I don't fucking make chicken salad out of chicken shit, though.
Unfortunately, there is no limit. Every single person there is looking to get at least $10,000 if they can.
Jesus, man.
It's fucking crazy. But I mean, that's the reality of it. And if you're not of infinite means, which none of us are, I mean, it's good to try to extract yourself from the haze that is, current social media and all of its. Well, what you need is the Fire Festival of weddings, but the real one, not that fake shit that
the one that actively collapsed,
right? And try to remove yourself in terms of, I mean, what are you guys going to enjoy? What do you want to remember? What are you going to remember? And ultimately, what would make you happy? I mean, we had an amazing wedding. Honestly, the money I think that we spent. The money that I think was spent best on ours, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was honestly our dance coach. As stupid as that sounds, and we had leaps and shit in our first dance. It was great. Mm-hmm. It was a great time, and we and a lot of the people in attendance still remember that, and that was money well spent. All the rest of it was wonderful, but had it been half the price, would have been great.
We saved a lot of money getting married on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Friday the 13th.
I highly recommend Friday the 13th.
Or, well,
because it works.
That's like twice a year, though, maybe. But Sundays happen a lot.
Actually, I don't.
That was a
I don't
previous
think the
episode.
next Friday the 13th is going to be for at least another year.
My first birthday was on a Friday the 13th.
Congratulations.
Why, thank you. I thought about getting a 13 tattooed on me somewhere because I don't believe in
Well, you're
bad
about
luck
to start running out of room.
Oh, I
right?
was born on
on
a.
that arm.
I was born on a double
I got
13.
plenty on this.
It was Thanksgiving of '81.
I'm getting an Egyptian, like cat related, like the the standing.
Well, because you already have like some vaguely
I have half
Egyptian stuff.
Well, I have. Well, that's all. This is all Egyptian right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
That's how he walks too.
I've thought about it, and I don't know. We'll see. There's a slight chance my wife and I might get some sort of like coordinated tattoo
it's
that I'm actually open to. But
it is super
see.
addicting. Obviously,
maybe.
how many people do you know that only have one?
No, I don't know anyone who only has one.
It's either none or multiple.
I'm not sure that I'm going to be that addicted to it.
You'd be surprised. Like you would be surprised.
I mean, I suppose I have a reasonable.
You thinking back
addicted.
or chest or like?
So in my angsty late teen years, I was actually thinking shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
with something. But I shied away from that when somebody was kind of detailing the cost because
Yeah.
I'm not loaded, and then two was I guess kind of the maintenance of it because I mean I work in an office. I'm not outside all that much, but I like getting outside.
Sunscreen.
On the rare chance you go to the beach and everything, but you really have to stay on top of that unless you want it to fade.
Well,
Is
all right.
at least how it was explained to me.
So, say I'm 33. My first one I got when I was 19, and it's at this one. Mm-hmm. Now,
I mean that still has some reasonable color to it.
that's I mean, compared to
Blues
the
and reds. I mean they're not terribly faded.
yeah, and I don't ever get out in the sun, so.
But I mean that's
And when I do,
the
when
difference
I
I'm
cut the
saying.
grass, I wear a long sleeve shirt anyway.
Yeah, see, I'm out there like I'm getting. I mean, for one, I live in the country, so nobody's has to see me. But I'm getting it shirtless, dude. Get those photons.
I don't. I do that so I don't fade my color, but
Right.
But also I don't. I sweat less when I have the long sleeve shirt on because the sun's not directly hitting my skin.
Okay.
Just for me. So
I can't believe you don't like this, by the way.
I'd rather listen to my own firing squad
so
than drink that again. No, they're totally addicted. Like I have that space and that, but he's just going to fade the purples in whatever I decide here. He's going to fade the purple all through there and just.
So, are you gonna because the area that you're pointing to is the inside of your elbow? Are you gonna have to try to pick something that will, I guess, functionally be able to deform and still kind of notice what it looks like? Or,
I mean, not
it'll
necessarily.
only
Like
really be
the
recognizable
microphone,
with
the microphone looks really good, but if I bend my arm like that, it distorts.
Yeah,
But I
So
don't.
if
I
you
don't
started,
walk around like
really
this.
hitting the roids.
Are you
Well,
carrying
I
something?
don't. I'm not going to do that. I just don't want to be fat. I'm not going to work. I just don't want to be fat. That's my only.
Join the club, dude.
That's my only
Join the
fitness
club.
criteria is that if I stay this size forever, I'll be okay.
I don't just eat baby carrots because I enjoy them.
I've decided I'm pretty much at my limit in terms of how fat I can allow myself to get.
Well, what is your limit?
So right now I'm right at about 215, 5'11".
Okay.
And I mean, I definitely hit the weights a little bit back in the day, so there's still sort of that triangular build, but I could lose a few. I could easily lose a few pounds. Realistically, I could lose 30 pounds.
I was going to say your neck is thicker than mine, so your body is your body.
I've hit the weights in the past. I used to swim a lot.
I did
like-
too, but that's been a while. But I have like a Gumby body, is how I describe it. I have a really short torso and really long legs and arms. So like my everyday walking around weight right now, I'm at 169.
I mean, it's not necessarily the most flattering, but I mean, to say you're a little scrawny wouldn't necessarily be inaccurate.
Right, yeah. But the thing, too, is when I put on weight, I put it all in my midsection. My arms and legs are so fucking long.
Kind of Clarkson-esque.
Yeah, absolutely. So, except, well, not that bad. And I'm not 6'5".
That's kind of the thing you forget. Like, as
He's
tall as
tall.
he is and everything, but he's got a gut.
He's got a huge gut.
And that's all liquor.
Yeah.
That's exclusively liquor.
And the thing, too, is I'm not going to, like, people will
I
say,
mean,
if you
props
quit
to him.
if
That's
you
fine.
quit drinking, you would, I was like, look, I'm not going to quit drinking.
Yeah. I should, for sure.
I don't have a problem, but I enjoy drinking. I enjoy the taste. If I wanted, like, I think, was it you and me that had this conversation? I think it might have been you and me or me and Thomas. But if I drank to get drunk, I would just go and get a handle of 5 o'clock vodka a week, and I would just smash it. But I enjoy the tastes of different things too, so that's a little bit different. Like, say Thomas and I get cigars every night. We do a cigar night once a month, and it's not good for you, but I enjoy the flavors and the tastes of cigars.
But I mean, once a month, you're not doing that much damage.
And you don't inhale
it's not necessarily
cigars.
Good for you, but you're not doing that much damage.
Because I might keel over tomorrow, and I'm not going to spend. I'm going to try to spend my life living instead of just surviving to an age. Like, I'm not going to marathon it to 100 and be miserable the last 10 years of my life.
I mean, it's kind of a trope, but you're here for a good time, not necessarily a long time.
Everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are closing in at 3 hours and 10 minutes, so I think it's time to call it a night.
It has been fun, guys.
Aren't you surprised at how fast 3 hours goes?
It does kind of fly.
It really does.
It's
like
nice.
Steve and I have never done one under an hour and a half, and the last several, even with or without guests, have been over 2.5 hours.
Well,
So
I really appreciate the invite. It's fun to always catch up with friends that with business and everything you don't see as much anymore.
that's true.
And talk about some cars. And if I'm invited back, we'll do a sommelier edition.
There will be an invite back. I had a lot of fun, and Mark, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and Steve, I think we're done. My name's AJ.
I've been Steve.
I think we're done. We will see you in episode number 30, and we'll see you next time.
Toodles.
Later.